Okay, this is the August video chat with fans. Uh, few announcements. One, I screwed up. I completely forgot last time that I said, "Oh, the video is definitely coming last month," and this is all my fault this time. What happened was I just started leaning into my instincts, and my instincts were, it's like, well, I'm working on this one a while. I'll get it done at some point. I want to start on these other ideas though. So what's been happening is, instead of just finishing out the video, then moving on to the next one, at this point, I want to say there's 4 videos underway, which was a mistake and not smart. But again, I'm going to say, judge me by how I do by the end of the year. So, judge me by this year. It's obviously not going so well from month to month, but I have plans to kind of catch up. So yeah, next is probably gonna be Game Dungeon. That one's getting pretty close to done. It's gonna be long. It might even be the longest one yet. It's not because it's particularly epic or anything. It's just I didn't really feel like, I had a lot to say and I didn't really feel like cutting it. So after that, I have shorter Game Dungeons planned. At least I think they'll be shorter. That, although I thought Sonic Heroes was gonna be like that, and that ended up not, but. And by shorter, I mean like hopefully under 20 minutes. This one's probably going to be over an hour, the next one. I completely forgot about it, but it's getting a few embellishments. There's the Freeman's Mind blooper that'll be coming out pretty soon. Next Freeman's Mind is another one I'm working on. And then there's 2 sort of other videos that I'm working on. One of them, there's no way it's coming out this month. And when you see it, you're going to think I'm probably insane, but some people will appreciate it, I'm sure. So I don't want to spoil too much what's in those. But yeah, and let's see. Does the mic sound a bit tinny today? Oh, shoot. Let's see if it's checking the right. Oh, here. Yeah, we want to make sure it's getting the right source and not taking it from the webcam. Properties. I mean, it could be something else that's screwing up. But yeah, it looks like it's all right. But yeah, I think if you see everything I have coming out by the end of the year, everything that's come out, I think I'll be mostly forgiven. At least that's what I hope. So yeah, I screwed up and it's taking longer. However, it's taking longer because I'm making even more videos. But it was not efficient. I shouldn't have done this. So, but it was a morale boost. So, okay, other announcements. Oh yeah, last month I mentioned last time I was invited by Paul Morgan Stetler, Curtis Craig from Phantasmagoria 2, and I got to talk to him. Talk some about the game, and then I also got to talk to the composer, Gary Spinrad. I'm not sure how it came out because I was around I was basically a third of the way around the globe from where it was taking place. So I hope I didn't cut them off too much by accident, because I didn't. That's always something that happens with me when doing streaming chat is, you think, oh, okay, now I can talk, but you're a second or two off, and then it always comes out awkward. But I'll have a link to that in the description. Let's see. But yeah, I was pretty stoked about being able to talk to him, especially since he looks so similar. I never would have envisioned talking on video with him when I played the game. Let's see. Oh yeah, and I'm willing to promise some videos are coming out this month, but particularly the Game Dungeon, the Freeman's Mind blooper, and for sure I'll be done with the voice work on the next Freeman Mind, maybe 2, or else the next Game Dungeon I have planned, which I'll move into afterwards. However, because I'm getting help with those and the effects, or I'm getting a little bit more help now with volume balancing, can't promise when those will be out, but I can kind of promise the dialogue will be done. So, let's see. Just when I was asking about taking a break after another major video is out, maybe I'll take a break, but I would feel too guilty doing it before then. So yeah, okay, that was the announcements. August. Oh yeah, this is sort of just kind of personal news for me, and this might make its way into a video eventually, but for now you just get a kind of a preview. Okay, I finally kind of buckled down and tried to play a non VR game in stereoscopic 3D in VR. I wanted to play Kingpin since I don't think I played that one since I originally played it. And that's an old game from '99 based on the Quake 2 engine. But the thing is, there's no special control, so I was really just aiming with mouse and keyboard, except it's like in a 3D theater, like kind of right in front of my face. So I'd say it's about, it felt about 90% as immersive as like native VR. But, I wasn't expecting to last long because it's mouse aiming and, kind of quick movements from Quake 2. So I thought, but I just had to try it because it's just so cool seeing a game world I'm familiar with in stereoscopic. Oh yeah, I was using VorpX for this. And what actually ended up happening was I lasted over an hour and did not get like really sick. I felt a little off by the end of it, but that blew my mind because in like full VR games where I'm kind of moving around with the camera, I hadn't made it more than like 20 minutes until I started kind of feeling it. But this one, like I've never made it this long in VR for where the camera is moving. I mean, if I was stationary, then yeah, I could probably last that long. So that's a real breakthrough for me. I've played through the entire game now in Kingpin, and I've moved on. I've started playing Unreal, like the original one. That took some tweaks to get working, but I feel like, in the VR video, I felt like I was trying to get back to the Nexus. I feel like I've stepped like 1 foot into the Nexus now. Like being able to play Unreal in, as though I'm actually there, it's almost like a life goal for me. So I'm so stoked about that. And for sure, I'm going to do other Unreal Engine games like Deus Ex, though that one will be harder with all the 2D HUD stuff. And yeah, Clive Barker's Undying. That's another one I'm going to have to play in VR. But yeah, this is the 3D theater thing using VorpX. Unreal took some more tweaks. Like I had to turn off the crosshair because that looked off. I had to turn off light coronas. Thankfully, that is an option in the advanced options. Actually, there's still a problem with it where, although I remember this issue way back in like 2000 or 2001 or something when I was using the Elsa Revelator glasses, and the bug's still there, where the landscape, the sky looks like, in the skybox, the sky looks like it might be slightly too close, but the mountains, like the sprite, those are way too close. The depth is all wrong in those. So unfortunately, it doesn't look good looking at the sweeping vistas, but everything else just looks awesome. If anybody knows a way to, if there are any Unreal 1 engine experts that knows a way I might be able to fix that, probably not without like modifying the map. Let me know. Maybe there's a console command I could just tell it to just push that stuff into the back Z buffer more, I don't know, but it's still like 90% just amazing. I have no idea why I last longer, even just using like, again, we're talking like mouse aiming here. So this is not, this is totally counterintuitive with what should make you less sick. I would have thought this would make me more sick. But all I can guess is that because it's sort of like the 3D theater style. Oh, whoops, okay. Because it's the 3D theater style, if I look to like the left or the right, the image doesn't follow with me. It kind of stays in front of me. But I'm not really doing that much in the game. I'm mostly just facing forward. However, I think my best guess is I still see kind of like the edges, because it's kind of a 4:3 image, and sort of a circular view. I'm still seeing a bit of the edges. Also, I'm guessing maybe the micro movements of just, kind of moving your head around a little bit. Those in full VR, those track completely. Whereas in this, they don't. Like the image I'm guessing maybe those add up to make me sick less fast. So I don't know. I'm so psyched about this. I'm actually trying to do a lot of old games for two reasons. One, the performance is going to be great, so I don't have to worry about frame rate drop. And two, the 4:3 ratio is better for most VR headsets because that kind of fits a circle better as opposed to widescreen, like 16:9, which it just looks off, or else you have to zoom in way more. So it's actually making me wonder, it's actually making me really be interested in one of like the wide field of view headsets, which I think Pimax is the only game in town for consumers. After that, you have like Star VR and Exile, but those are just stupid expensive. But yeah, with the upper end Pimax, I learned that it recently checks the box on almost all specs because it has 2 4K panels in there. Apparently, it's very comfortable, but until recently, it would top out at 72 hertz, which I thought maybe part of the reason I get less sick on the Samsung Odyssey, what I have now, than the DK2 is because the refresh rate's higher. It goes up to 90. So I'm thinking maybe I need that extra refresh rate to be less sick. However, they recently added 90 hertz support, but it's like this special tie-in deal with NVIDIA where you have to have a GeForce 3000 card in order to unlock that. I guess it's because they're doing some trick to get more compressed data through DisplayPort 1.4 or whatever. So I'm not getting one of those anytime soon because, now is like the worst time ever to get a new video card. So, however, once that drought finally ends, I could see myself doing some big upgrades. Oh yeah, I have the Samsung Odyssey Plus. People are asking what I have. It's like better and worse than the Valve Index. It depends on what you're looking at. So, same resolution though, but different different way they handle the subpixels and tracking. But when that thing's on sale, it's by far the best bang for the buck. Like, if you're interested, check it on Black Friday. It can come down to like the low 200s. So, new, or at least it used to. Who knows what's happening now? Okay, so I'll start going to the questions. I just want to announce that because again, it's like I achieved a life goal just almost by accident. Like, being able to play in like these old, like really atmospheric games. I'm making a list of games I want to try and get working. Like, I really want to try and get like the old Need for Speed games, like 3 and 4 and Porsche Unleashed. Those have just fantastic art design. Again, some of the Unreal Engine games. I might do the Quake stuff eventually, but we'll see. But I'm just blown away. This basically triples my tolerance time for motion sickness. Because, you can get a lot of gaming done in an hour. So, yeah, somebody's saying Quake 1, but I don't know. Like, Quake 1, like, the levels are so kind of abstract to me that I'm not really having, like, a burning desire to play those. I kind of want ones where they have, like, more atmosphere to them, So I'll probably do Quake 2 at some point, but I imagine there's probably a mod for, like, full VR support in Quake 2. Oh, wow. Okay, so apparently you missed the window for the Odyssey Plus, according to the chat. Yeah, it's going above initial retail price. Yeah, I think the retail price was $600, but for some reason it would just drop so dramatically during sales. Yeah, Arcane Dimensions. Yeah, that was like a full total conversion or mod pack for. Yeah, I might try that. So, I have nothing. Yeah, GZ Doom VR. I tried that early. I could last about 20 minutes in that. but I almost want to play more non-native games now because I don't get sick as fast. So I don't know why, but I don't. So that's a huge draw. Anyway, I just wanted to pass that along. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so start answering the questions. I know some people don't care at all about VR, so I'm not trying to hog the chat on that. Okay. Oh, shoot, I don't even have the questions ready. All right, one second. Yeah, dark. Well, I think somebody's mentioned Dark Spore in VR. Well, I'm assuming we even got that working. I'm not sure that'd be a great candidate because I'm not sure like those top-down games would be that great. I mean, it'd be kind of neat, but it'd be sort of like having a mini table in front of you, which, I mean, it might be interesting. I'll probably give it a shot with Warcraft 3, see how that feels. But, I mean, the most immersive stuff's going to be sort of like first-person view, or to a lesser extent, maybe third person might still be pretty good, but on the ground level, I think benefit the most from VR. Top down or isometric, even if it's in 3D. I mean, it might be neat, but it won't be just the jaw-dropping experience like it is in first person. Okay, so first question. People say I have a Discord server when they really mean I have made a communication channel with software I don't own that runs on an infrastructure I don't control. Are free always online services like Discord or Google Docs slowly eroding the need to really own something? Feels like this makes it easier to accept games as a service if you never had your personal files in your computer anyway. Yeah, it's definitely an attack from multiple angles here. I mean, it's different though. I mean, games as a service, it's like the worst because out of all these, because you mentioned Google Docs. See, Google Docs, I don't see as such an issue because if you make a spreadsheet or a presentation, you can export that in Google Docs and save that copy. So even if Google Docs, they were to kill it, you could still have your files and open it with something else. So it's like, for stuff like that, it's the means to the end. You know, the end is making your Office document, you know? Whereas games, no, running the game is the end. So the software is the end of that. And also the death rate on games is so high for ones that do this. I mean, there's not many online-only games that have just been going on for 20 years or longer and without a hitch. No, I mean, from the games as a service video, it was something like 97% of games as a service when they want to stop funding them, they just go down. You have no recourse unless you're just incredibly lucky with reverse engineering it. So it's handled incredibly irresponsibly. But with Discord, that's true. I mean, I guess the predecessor was with like IRC, where I think you really could own the channel, the server you're hosting that on. So, and IRC was just the protocol. But yeah, I mean, if you want something really permanent, yeah, I'd say Discord's not a great idea. It's kind of more, I would think it's probably best for just kind of casual chat or like a group chat, a coordinated like live chat thing that would be best for. I mean, forums or, something where there's like an easy record that you can grab might be better. But I don't know. I mean, especially for younger people who just are growing up with not having a permanence of much of anything online. And the thing is, it's not that I'm not even against like having all this stuff be online instead of offline, except that the reputation has shown that the industry is so irresponsible. What I'm against is just this is stuff you care about being destroyed. And so often that happens because of online only services. Now, I mean, if they're kind of keeping it, if there was a really robust system to ensure that, like, again, I'm not too worried about Google Docs because of its size, but to ensure that, like, if there was even a threat of this happening, there would be all these procedures to ensure that the data gets out there, so your odds of losing something are incredibly low. Then I might be okay with it. So I'm not against something being online for its own sake. It's just I'm against things being destroyed that you care about, and that becomes synonymous with online only so often over a long enough period of time. Yeah, Google Docs, I would actually say that's kind of maybe I'm missing something. That might be about as benevolent as it gets because, again, you can save your files and open it with something else. And so it's just really a convenience more than anything else. And that's fine. I'm fine with cloud stuff as an option or a convenience thing. But, you still have a fallback option if you can't risk having that go down. So I'm fine with cloud stuff if that's all it is. But I have very little faith in it. I mean, yeah, actually I mentioned on Twitter, was it I don't know if I mentioned this last time. Microsoft announced they have Windows 365 now for businesses where it's online. It's an online version of Windows. You can run in a browser. And hopefully this is where it stays as just an option. So they're never trying to force that. Though I think, was it Windows 11? They're going to force home users to log in and have a connection. So maybe maybe that's where it stops, or maybe this is just going to be constant encroachment. And I loved one comment somebody said on Twitter where they said, I don't know, anytime I see cloud computing, the Kill Bill siren goes off in my head. And I'd forgotten all about that movie, but I remembered it. It's like the dree, like, I thought that was such a good comment. That's kind of how you should approach cloud computing. Is this truly a convenience? And there's backup options, and you don't really have anything to worry about if the service were to eventually go down? Or are you up a creek without a paddle if it were to go down and just be completely screwed? If it's the latter, which most of them are, then I'm totally against it. That's kind of where I stand on it. So, somebody's saying it's from a really old show. Yeah. Tarantino pulled a bunch of old references for that. So I'm not surprised at all to learn that goes farther back, the Kill Bill siren. Okay, some more questions. What video game would you recommend to an alien visiting our planet? And we have some good suggestions. I like the XCOM suggestion. That would certainly make the alien relationship interesting, if that's what we're sending them. And somebody mentions Crusader Kings 2 or 3. That's not bad either. I mean, I would say like an obvious one might be The Sims. However, The Sims doesn't get quite everything. The Sims would be great for learning about individual humans. But collectively, I think something like Crusader Kings might be a lot better because you have all the Machiavellian tactics, and it's like, oh wow, these people are trying to dominate and screw over each other constantly, or like it's like they're just trying to hold everything back. So those would be good games for them understanding us. I think The Sims in one hand and one of this Crusader King games in the other. I don't know what we would want to send them for fun. I mean, maybe like a puzzle game, like something like Portal or that Cube game with a Q. It's something that they could probably, because we don't know what the alien preferences are going to be. Because I'm thinking of like the Octo Spiders and Rama. They're deaf, and they work mainly on colors. So if they saw this sort of thing that was seeing like somebody saying Lemmings, yeah, that'd be Lemmings would say a lot about our culture, I think. Yeah. So yeah, I don't have like an obvious answer, but those are good suggestions in the chat. Like, yeah, XCOM, if we really just want to cut to the chase and see like how tolerant the aliens are, like, or where our mind's at, you know. But yeah, I think a combination of The Sims and Crusader, one of the Crusader Kings, would be quite a decent understanding of humanity. Because it's like, oh, okay, they're getting, because in The Sims they're getting a lot of information. I'm gonna turn on a fan. Hopefully this makes too much noise. Yeah, you know, it's like, oh, okay, they get hungry, they need to sleep, and they have these cycles, and they have to go to some occupation. Yeah, they can learn a lot, but that's not giving them the bigger picture. That's giving them like the micro picture. Crusader Kings gives more of the macro view of things and what to expect. So. Yeah, I mean, you could have other grand strategy games, but I think one that doesn't hold back the dark side of humanity, and from what I've heard of like the Crusader Kings games, they don't. You're having all these like affairs and cockering and just disinformation, or just hard codified rule by hierarchy. So that's those are all like big things in humanity. So somebody's saying, why not SimCity? I think those don't give quite the macro. I think SimCity doesn't give quite the macro picture that something like Crusader Kings would. Yeah, somebody's saying, I haven't played the Civilization games. I feel like Civilization might be a little more benevolent than something like Crusader Kings, where Crusader Kings probably isn't holding back any. It's taken from a lot of history. So, and it would be good if the aliens understood this is in the past, because they could see The Sims as much more modern than Crusader Kings. So they realize like this is our history. So this is what we've kind of come from, and we haven't necessarily eliminated. It's just kind of morphed, you know. Okay. Okay, I'm keeping the language cleaner for YouTube. Which game had the biggest WTF moment for you? And that actually reminds me of, I mean, I guess everybody knows it now, but in Invader Zim, like you see his ship flying by a radio station, and it's WTFU, I remember. Okay, these may not be the best answers because you guys are aware of some of them. I think there was one I didn't. I may have forgotten one of them. Okay, well, one is just the cow scene from Arcade America. I cut that out of the video because you know what? I don't want to be staring at this and editing. It's like people can go watch for themselves if they really want to. But others are just in ways you just can't fathom. Like, is this actually what's meant to happen? Like in the game, and Armed and Delirious, you saw it in the video in that puzzle where. No, they really do just want you to blind guess trial by error. Like, was it hundreds of combinations that was going to take you like 20 minutes or something minimum to figure it out, or average to figure it out, just by blind guessing? I'm thinking, really? That's what, we're not missing a clue here? Like, this is actually what the walkthrough says? Is there another walkthrough to kind of cross-reference that there's some logic to any of this? Like, no. Okay, like, I mean, I've seen time wasting stuff, but never to that degree in an adventure. And I've seen the kind of, the moon logic in adventure games, but there was no logic. It was just trial and error, and it wasn't like 3 or 4 switches up and down, because I've seen that in a lot of games. No, this is like, it's going to take you at least 20 minutes on average of doing that. But let's see. Yeah, I had a couple others. Oh, well, yeah, there was, I guess I mentioned all these in videos. And The Chosen, that was progressing like an okay level. And then you get to that boss, and then like, I almost just couldn't believe how many hits that thing took. Now, again, I'll be mentioning The Chosen when I get to a follow-up episode, because it sounds like they toned that down in Frauder. But the original U.S. release, that boss, I think, was it like, I don't remember how many it was. It was like a couple hundred hits. And this is after the game seems to have like kind of pretty boilerplate pacing, with like, okay, we have like a mini boss, takes a little bit longer, and like the enemies take a few hits, and like there's a logic to it, and this is a playable game, and then you get to that boss, it's like, what? You know, like, is this even possible to beat this? Is this a bug? You know? So yeah, that one, like when I originally played it, I mean, I was, I mean, it's like these things that like really make you doubt, like, is there a bug here? Did I make a mistake? Like, was I supposed to pick up like a special item or something? No. And then I think I mentioned the birthday video. I think it was Final Fantasy 11, where this group wanted to buckle down and really take out it was Pandemonium Machine or something like that. This special boss that it would keep morphing into others, and they tried it for, I want to say it was like at least 12 hours. And this is like a veteran, these are like veteran MMO players teaming together to try to bring down this boss. And it's just not happening. Like, I mean, they were getting exhausted by the end of the day. So I think I had another one, but, well, there's one I'll sort of save for a future game dungeon. But those are ones that kind of jump out at me. That I can think. I'm sure there's better ones, but I've probably forgotten them. I've probably mentioned this before, but I keep remembering it in Path of Exile. Yeah, you can't even access this now, but I guess you can see the clips on YouTube. It used to be you could talk to these NPCs. They would have these different masters, and one of them was this huntress lady who would just go through the forest constantly, and this cartographer lady was talking about her, and she was saying she's gone farther and deeper into these unknown lands than I've ever could hope to, but she doesn't map anything or keep track of it. It's very frustrating. And I was thinking, yeah, I'm kind of feeling like that. It's like, oh, I'm not leaving enough trail of where I've been. You know, so that when I think of it, it's like it's hazy in my memory. So, okay, so have you seen the game Cruelty Squad? How much does this game remind you of your unconscious mind? I've watched the trailer of it. Well, I guess to answer the question, it doesn't really make me think of my unconscious mind. Mine's different. You want to have like, things that are much more detailed and kind of more, think of like high fantasy kind of images, but then, yeah, like think of images from high fantasy where you're kind of going to different dimensions and lands and sort of thing. It'd be more like that. But yeah, that really doesn't strike me as my kind of game. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of content there, but it's like it looks like they're going for this intentionally ugly aesthetics, and it kind of has like this nihilism bent to it, and it just didn't strike me. The trailer just didn't strike me as my kind of thing at all. Like, it almost seems like a form of gaming torture. I mean, it's the aesthetics and presentation of it. I mean, I could see where some people might find that fascinating, but just didn't like hit my vibe at all. Like, I doubt I'll play it. Yeah, it's, although there was one part that made me laugh. It's like when you're talking to this guy at a corporation and he's saying like, oh, I'm just working here until I can start my own business and like really move into, was it potato farmer logistics? And then just bam, the player like immediately shoots him and just gone. Like, I laughed at that part, but I don't know. It was just giving me this tone or vibe that's not really my thing at all. I mean, I'm not trying to knock like low definition game that has like a lot of depth to it. In fact, like what it made me think of was I would infinitely rather try to take another shot at something like, what was it? Omicron, the Nomad Soul, than to probably play Cruelty Squad. Because Omicron, the Nomad Soul, they're trying to tell a story there, and they're putting it, well, for the time, there's pretty good amount of effort being put into the aesthetics, and I get the feeling there's some depth there, but maybe it had like some gameplay choices that aren't very good or something. I didn't get that deep into it, but it kind of intrigued me. It made me think there might be a lot there. And this is like an interesting world. Even, okay, somebody's saying Omicron is torture. It very well could be, but just from what little I've played of Omicron versus the trailer to the Cruelty Squad, I would much rather play Omicron. So it's just, yeah, it gives me like bad trip vibes or something like that. Yeah, like a colorblind bad time is what it's the vibe I got from it. But I mean, if a lot of people clearly like the game, I think it was rated like very positive on Steam or something like that. So I think the people who are looking for that, like what they're looking for in a game is like different than what I am. I'm kind of looking for kind of fascinating worlds or really fun gameplay. And that world, again, it looks like they're going for intentionally ugly aesthetics, which that can always rub me the wrong way, like regardless how the game is. And then combined with the nihilistic tone towards it, it just, I don't know. Not my kind of game, so sorry. Don't worry, I'm sure somebody else on YouTube will cover Cruelty Squad. Let's see. Oh yeah, what do you think of the practice of using AI to replace still living voice actors for games and movies? Do you think it will become more common as time passes? Yeah, it could. As for what I think of it, it actually reminded me, I've seen a couple movies on this concept. There's one called Simone with Al Pacino, which I remember that one not being that great, but it's on the concept. But there's another one that's a trip. I did some prep for this question because I couldn't remember the title, so it took me a little while to look it up. It's called The Congress. It's from 2013, and it's about this aging actress who it sounds like the studios are kind of ready to drop her. So, but they're willing to let her be like basically digitize and own the rights to her likeness. So she's basically going to be done with movies, but they're going to keep putting her in movies because she was like problematic to work with or that sort of thing. And it's what? Somebody's saying too slow, Russ. Okay, I missed something. It goes into weird places. So yeah, if you want to know my opinion on it, it's the same as that movie where by the end of it, I'm thinking, wow, that was really strange. I'm not sure what happened. Like if I were to describe it, I'd say I would say it's sort of like a cross between the movies What Dreams May Come and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like it just goes into strange places. So yeah, if you want, it's not necessarily my favorite movie, but it's definitely interesting. So yeah, if you want a movie that's kind of a trip and that description appeals to you, yeah, check it out. The Congress from 2013. But for using AI for voice acting, I'm kind of neutral on it. A lot of, there were some comments underneath there saying that like the actors are big against it and because they're going to get kind of screwed from employment and that sort of thing. My first thought is, well, welcome to a lot of the other workforce, where, you're losing rights, you're getting a worse deal and AI is taking over. And it actually kind of reminded me of, okay, I'm sure put it like this, it's not that the actors are in the wrong, it's that, like, several years back, there was, like, this movement where, like, voice actors went on strike. Yeah, like the Screen Actors Guild, and that was getting a lot of play. And they were there was, like, some movement to try to, like, boycott games in the industry. And I was thinking, and my thought with this was, this whole thing feels a little tone deaf because it's like, on one hand, yes, of course you want the people working on a project to be adequately compensated so they can stay afloat. But on the other hand, like, you know how raw a deal the rest of a lot of developers are getting in the games industry compared to the voice actors? I mean, it's almost like a different class of hierarchy again. It's in the interview I had with, Paul Morgan Steckler and Gary Spinrad, the composer. He was talking about how he had to work. It was something like 100-hour weeks. It sounded like week after week, month after month, and like ended up having real problems on his health. And that is hardly an outlier story in the games industry, especially AAA productions. Where it's, it's like an hour or two, past what you're normally doing for a crunch. It's like a spectrum from no big deal to like downright abuse, So it's what I feel like is we should just get to the root of the problem, where people need a way to kind of meet their basic needs regardless of their employment or type of employment. Like have like a ground floor that you don't fall through, because otherwise you just keep getting these kind of patchwork solutions that don't really solve the problem for it. So, but yeah, as for the actual practice itself, I guess I'm kind of neutral on it. It's like, if I don't notice it's an AI, I mean, it's all right for me as the end user, but it's a lot of text about Armed Delirious. I can see where it screws. I don't want people getting screwed, but just preventing having more protections against this in the industry, that's not going to save things. And this is a much bigger problem than that. If actors are getting less work and not being able to make a living because of stuff like that. Plus, I mean, it's, what will probably happen is like the existing actors would get more protections, but then anybody upcoming and new, no, you're signing your rights away, and you've gotta agree to this AI stuff. And I mean, I don't know, they might be able to have protections against it, but acting's kind of a mess already, because for the actors who have like name recognition and made a real career of it, there's probably like 100 people who are having to work, second or third jobs and just clawing at the opportunity to kind of get any sort of jobs going at all that they could support themselves. So it's like you have a big so even though you have a Screen Actors Guild that can secure a lot of protections, it really only applies to people who have made it to a certain level. So I become a lot less concerned about this sort of thing if, like, you're getting your, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you're getting your needs met, whether you're successful or not. Okay. This is a repeat of a question, but so I'll just give a quick answer because I haven't thought of too many other things. In your opinion, what genres of games do you think we could do more of? And what genres of games do you think are oversaturated? Well, ones I'd like to see more of are, again, something, it's almost like subgenre that only applied to just a couple games, and then that was it. I want to see something that feels like a single-player PlanetSide, where you have these kind of grand sci-fi wars going on, but you're on the ground level. And I want to mention something like a Dungeon Siege successor, basically party-based action RPGs. I think some people mention Kenshi for that, but I don't think I can even name enough on like one hand how many there are. A party-based action RPGs. Let's see. I mean, I can see where we have plenty of them, but I honestly wouldn't even mind more of like good sort of Metroidvania type games, because sometimes I don't really like the theme of some, but I like it of others. So I can play a lot of those. I enjoy those. Yeah, okay. So those are just ones off the top of my head. As for oversaturated, I mean, I'm not too worried about that because there are so many games now that if it's oversaturated, it's like, oh well, I'll just play something else. It sure seems like stuff like I would say like a lot of a lot of battle royale stuff, or just sort of Overwatch knockoffs, or I guess to a lesser extent maybe some Left 4 Dead knockoffs. That I don't know. It seems, I mean, if people love them, great, keep playing them. It's just that I'd be happy to see less news on those. Yeah, it'd be nice to be able to filter game news by multiplayer or single player. Although I do like MMO stories, so maybe I wouldn't want to do that. But yeah, just all this really microtransaction heavy stuff. These games I tend not to be that interested in. There's somebody saying Dota. I feel like the MOBA games have kind of died down as far as exposure. But yeah, somebody's saying too many 5v5 competitive games. Yeah, again, like Overwatch or other, there's a million, or like the Lawbreakers. Those are the sorts of games where I might want to run around on the map and look at that in VR, and then that's about it. Okay, so more questions. I noticed you mentioned Prey in the credits for the tunnel. Do you remember what assets from Prey you used there? Yeah, I had to stop and think about it, but I want to say it was the textures I used for the end room where the monster or Bike and Dave were kind of stuck in the pods there. I think the pods themselves might have used a texture from Prey. So I think it was all in that room. So, next question. What trend in modern gaming design philosophy drives you nuts? They're saying they're not talking about loot boxes, etc. And then they mention pixel art and everything, roguelikes, battle royale, bland soundtracks. Well, again, people mentioned the one that I repeat a million times, that gets to me above everything else is not having an end of life plan. So and requiring online only requirement. So as soon as support's done, that's it. The game's dead. Nobody can ever play it again. That overshadows everything else. So that's what I care about, like 99%. And so everything else I mention, it becomes after that. So it's like a far, far, far second, So for the second, I guess I don't really care about Battle Royale that much. So it doesn't really drive me nuts. Bland soundtracks, it just bugs me. Roguelikes, see, here's the thing about roguelikes. That can annoy me, where I like roguelikes where if you're really good, you could do it the first time. So, okay, yeah, I know I've asked chat. Did the original Rogue game, did you get any benefits or become stronger when you died for the next game? Because I'm curious if that was there at the beginning or if that's something they added in later. And the balance of these things are basically, it's mandatory. You need to die a few times in order to attempt beating the game. And I don't like that. I want one. Okay, so we have a nope, one person. So for the original Rogue, see, so that's an added thing. Yeah. Oh, just knowledge. Well, Well, they're saying just knowledge though. Weren't the rooms kind of generated, or were they not? Because I like knowing you have a chance. Like I played one that was that was almost like, yeah, Bunker Punks was sort of like that, where if you're really good, you can beat that game the first try. And even then, like on the second try, if you get the right weapon, your odds go up dramatically. So, so knowledge as a player understanding. Yeah, I'm okay with that. So what I don't like are ones where it's basically impossible for you to beat the game the first try because you need to die and get some points to spend on some item that's basically mandatory to beat the game. So yeah. So Bunker Punks is a good example of a game that does not do that, in my opinion. Like if you're if you're just awesome at first-person shooters, I think you could beat the game first try. So, but then it can kind of, but if it just gets easier the more times you try, then I'm all right with that. Let's see. Somebody's talking about loot boxes. Thankfully, I'm not playing too many games. For the types of games I'm playing, it's very rare for me to run into loot boxes. I kind of don't care about them that much. I guess if they're holding up me advancing in the game, that'd be an issue. But I get sort of annoyed by seeing like microtransaction stuff everywhere because it kind of pulls you out of the game. It reminds you this is a game. Don't get lost in the immersion of it. So, but yeah, there's so many to choose from. There's stuff that I'm having trouble thinking of things that like bug me a lot in more modern games. So. Okay, so I was talking about in Life is Strange. I was giving my advice on the bullying. Is there a story behind that? Do you think a lot of media gives bad advice on how to deal with bullies? Well, I mean, I had some bullying in school. It didn't get too bad. Like, again, there was one group, these guys that basically I realized they couldn't tell that I was acting crazy instead of being crazy. So they got kind of a laugh out of me just acting crazy, and then they moved on. So that sort of worked out well. There was one bully. It wasn't just towards me. It was kind of towards everybody. I came so close to getting into a fight with. This was in middle school. I think it was like 6th grade or something. And I remember the only reason I didn't was because I knew that would kind of lead to suspension and maybe getting kicked out. And I took school more seriously than I should have, looking back on it now. And the thing is, he probably would have won too, but I just didn't care. I just got so pissed at him. And I think the other guy was just hoping I would throw the first punch because then, then I guess he can chalk it up as defending himself or something like that. But it ended up just being kind of a standoff and sort of simmer down. As for advice on bullies, it varies so wildly because you give the wrong advice for how to deal with, depending on the bully, that could get you killed. Like, no, I'm not even exaggerating, depending on what kind of school you're going to and what the bully's kind of psychological makeup is. So it's really a case-by-case thing. I mean, in a sense, it's kind of a no-win scenario because, like, yeah, you can always kind of rat them out, but then they might want to come back at you twice as hard. It depends on like how strong the bully's resolve is. Like you probably heard of this thing, how like bullies are internally fearful and secretly afraid and like, weak will. Well, some of them, others, no, they'll probably die. If they get into enough trouble, they have no fear at all. So it's, you're gonna get, die before backing down is what I meant. Yeah, I grew up mostly in Virginia. Chat's asking. I would say if the bully is doing like just straight up violence towards you, like they're just pinning you down, just beating crap out of you, then it depends. Again, it depends. If they're not particularly, if it's just kind of isolated, like I want to say like, the rules for like an inner city bully could vary a lot compared to like a more suburban area. If you could get them expelled, then that might be a win scenario. However, if they're in a gang and they're going to come for you like after school, then no, that might actually escalate the danger. But if you thought that was you might be able to get like a friend to kind of record you covertly if you know you're going to encounter them. But yeah, you got to judge. It's like, is them getting in trouble going to discourage them from coming after you again or double down? Because you don't know. I mean, you can maybe test the waters, but if they're coming for you saying like, hey, don't do this, we're going to get in trouble, and see how they react to it. If like they have any respect for that at all, then maybe you could try it, but otherwise it might backfire. I guess the best general advice, it's not great advice. Again, it's kind of a no-win scenario, would be to kind of make yourself a less appealing target somehow. So you're not giving them a lot of resistance, but they're not really getting a fun react. Like, say if they take something from you, what they want is kind of that monkey in the middle reaction where you're kind of grasping for it and freaking out, because then you're their entertainment. If you just kind of act depressed and just, kind of passive resistance, it's like, okay, and just act kind of defeated, you're not as fun to pick on for them then. So they might move on to somebody else, which again, doesn't solve the larger problem, but can solve it for you. So yeah, I guess that's the best that's the best advice I can give, is just kind of make yourself an unappealing target. And, pushing back, like standing your ground or, ratting them out, that's a lot riskier, and you have to kind of evaluate what you want to do. But you can also, it depends what they're doing to you too. If they're just stealing stuff from you, maybe you could have, maybe you could hide stuff that you care about, like for lunch or something. You keep that in another place and eat it later, or, and just have almost like a decoy thing for them. But if they're just trying to ruin your stuff to make you upset, then I would go with act depressed. It might be depressed. Just okay, just take the fun out of it for them. Fighting back, especially if you're smaller than them, that's going to be fun. That's going to be entertainment for them. So you don't want that. Just think about that's the best sort of general advice I can give, because that's not going to escalate things really, and it increases your odds of the bullies kind of getting tired of you. So, somebody's saying in chat, there's no one bully solution. Yeah, it gets that's why, based on what I was seeing in Life is Strange, neither of these are good. Like what I wanted to do was just walk right through her and just not say anything, because what was her name? Gloria? I think in Life is Strange, she didn't strike me as the ultimate bully. She struck me as she would get annoyed that you were doing that, but since you're just acting kind of somber and depressed and just moving along and ignoring everything she's saying, she might give it up. She might find someone else she can kind of pick on more. What I wanted Sam to do was just walk straight through them, not say anything, and just not react to her getting indignant, and just be like, sorry, and just act like another cog in the machine, essentially. Whereas both the options, those are bad, because you're saying, oh, sorry, and it's like, maybe that works. Maybe she wants to bully you more because she realizes you're a pushover. And then the mocking her, oh no, you better be prepared to go the distance if you're doing that. Because, I'm sure she will come at you with revenge for the personality type I was getting. And people are, and of course, I don't know how it played out in the game, but just based on the psychological profile I was seeing of somebody like that, because she didn't strike me as particularly unrealistic. That I thought those were both bad options. What the game gives you. No, you just want to sort of shut down and not engage with her. Yeah. So okay, so she keep moving on here. But be very careful about standing your ground or trying to rat the bully out. Get him in trouble. You gotta approach that very cautiously. You don't want fleeting victories. All right. But I guess I'd observe other bully behavior. Actually, there was a fun bully behavior that I saw that worked out well. This wasn't a hardcore bully. This was just sort of your general type, where I think I mentioned this before in one of the video chats, where it was snowing outside and we're waiting for school to open. And I was just building a snowman, and the art teacher was just sort of casually, standing back and watching, just sort of bemused, just sort of spacing out, watching me build a snowman. And then this guy just comes up and says, hey, you want to see a trick? And then it goes and smashes it. And I didn't really care because it was a snowman. It's like, all right, whatever, man. And then, but the art teacher, that pissed him off. He walked up and said, "In the office now," like, and went off with him. So that was more of like right place, right time. Yeah, that's actually another good tactic, visibility, where if they're gonna kind of escalate things, like you are being seen by some authority figure, because then it's not necessarily, the bully kind of sees that as not on you for the most part. They realize it's like, oh, damn it, like, I did it again, like, yeah, that's another good option. High visibility. So, which isn't always an option, and of course the bully's going to know that, but let's see. Yeah, and the art teacher kind of looked like Willem Dafoe. And then not entirely, but he definitely had a bit of that look, similar hairstyle, the facial structure. Okay, more questions. From a fan's point of view, it feels like the decision to continue Freeman's Mind to Half-Life 2 the way you did has put a giant millstone around your neck you've worked for years to get rid of. Do you regret that decision at all? Oh, no. I mean, tell you what, ask me by the end of the year, because I plan on kind of making up the lost ground this year. I'm fishing. There's going to be my plans are to have another Freeman's Mind spree. Not as intense as what I did finishing up Freeman's Mind. I'm not doing that again if there's any way I can avoid it. So I'm still going to have some free time and sleep. But yeah, no, I'll try to keep, besides the next episode, I think it's going to be more of a, I think it's going to be better because I'm finally going to have a lot of interaction, which it works better. It's a lot easier to do that than to just fill in blank space. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, look, I did Freeman's Mind 2 as a fan response, as a response to seeing like how much support I got from the fan base. So it's kind of reverse order. It's not that I regret doing that. I felt like obligated. It's like, geez, I have to now, like, so it's like, it's a good burden, I would say, is to put it that way. I'd rather have that obligation and be where I am now because I got so much support from people than like not have any of it. So, hey, it's like the birthday video. It's better to regret something you have done than something you haven't. Not always true, but that tends to be more true for me than not. Especially if you have an idea of your limits. Like if you're talking permanent damage to yourself, then yeah, then that stops being true fast. But okay. If you could clone yourself to get more work done, do you think you would work well with yourselves, or would you drive you nuts? Oh no, I think it worked really well. We might want separate rooms though, because I can, I think I took like a personality test before, and I was like right in the border between introverted and extroverted. But if I'm trying to like focus on things and like get real work done, I'm not very extroverted at all. Like that slows me down tremendously. Whereas I'm just having fun, then sure, I can talk to people, have a good time. But if I'm like trying to get things done, my productivity is like 10% of what it is. Yeah, like group projects are awful for me for productivity. It's like I can't focus or concentrate. So we might want separate rooms, but I wouldn't have to oversee anything. I would trust me. I would trust my judgment of whatever we're doing. We could just coordinate every once in a while, like say, okay, yeah, like, okay, me one will do game dungeon or flip a coin, okay, I'll do Freeman's Mind. Me two does game dungeon. Me number three works on some of these side videos or does some other research or something, So, I mean, the logistics would get tricky, but so you have to delegate with clones. Working in groups can be challenging. Well, yeah, but we would all be on the same page, with this. We all realize we're equal, so whatever we take upon ourselves, it's just we have to do it anyway. So we would trust our judgment and not have to really deal with it. It's all us. I've heard that that can be a personality thing where some people would. Do you think the other Ross clones would get into arguments? I mean, maybe just about like if there was like a logistics failure, like I ate the other Ross's dinner and didn't realize it. So yeah, that could be a problem. But we would try to fix that. See, the thing is, I would implicitly know the intent and the plans of all the other Rosses. So, I mean, yeah, that would drift a little bit over time, but not that much. So I could just trust the judgment. So even if something doesn't come out the way I thought, I would think, well, you know what? I did my best. So, like, no. So I would have this implicit trust at all times of what the other Ross is doing. So, because it would, I think it would go fine. I mean, yeah, I'd have to. Yeah, I guess relationships would obviously be an issue. So you'd have the multiplicity issue where, again, we'd have to draw straws which Ross stays in this relationship, I guess. But see, I would accept that and realize, okay, well, the end result will work itself out. I think, and then we have to figure out Yeah, it would be problematic at first because I wouldn't have enough space or income to necessarily support all the Rosses well. It would be too cramped and problematic, but we would kind of try and figure out how to solve that, But yeah, just for working on things and like our goals, I think we would all be on the same page and understand. But basically, I look at it from the perspective of, well, I could be one of the clones. How would I feel about that? It's like I could adjust, And I think it would lead overall to the best results for all of us, We get more done with less work too, I think. Or at least with equal work, so. Okay, oh yeah, long comment. Apparently some of the creators of Revenant saw the review and I missed it in the comments. Okay, so apparently I screwed up by not using magic. I can believe that because some people were saying, oh, you're not using the combos for everything. It's like, the combos really didn't seem to add that much. I mean, but magic, I can believe that. So apparently the game was balanced that you basically have to use magic. So I can see if I screwed that up. Well, that's... Oh, okay. Well, there's some fun comments on there. Apparently, somebody was shouting at one of them saying, "You, sir, are no Jack Carmack," talking about the code quality. And it got kind of rushed. And they're saying a lot got thrown into the multiplayer, and then they say they would love to hear a review of that. Man, I mean, multiplayer for me, it's like there's so many options now. There's like two levels. There's just, okay, something to play with other people, or it's like I love the gameplay and like, yeah, I want to keep playing this. And I mean, I just wasn't even that interested in it, the multiplayer. And if you're making a game, the single player is almost certainly going to survive longer than the multiplayer. I mean, if we're just playing the odds here, But yeah, I missed that. Past a certain point, look, I try to look every now and then, but I'm never gonna. I am fully at peace that I'm never gonna catch up with YouTube comments. There's just too many. So, well, that's why you can kind of find my email, and I still have plans to catch up on email. But if there's a big deal email, I'll at least see that. Okay, and I think this is a good question to mark where I'll start picking and choosing. I'm not surprised I got asked this. I'm surprised this got so many votes on the Reddit thread. Have you checked out this site, noclip.website? Yes, I have checked out that site. In fact, I feature it in a video I released this year, the Dream Software video. Maybe the chat can timestamp where that is. You can kind of scroll through and see the image. So I was thinking, like, okay, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised people don't watch every single video I do. Like maybe some only want to watch Game Dungeon or Freeman's Mind or something like that. However, I would think people in the chat would, if you're in the chat or not in the chat, but like going to Reddit and asking me questions, though I figure those people would have seen more of my stuff. And this was one I put out this year, you know? So it's like, so yes, I am aware of this site that I featured in a video I made this year talking about that, which I said specifically, I hope that, you know, to save myself some emails. And I received like a few emails on this too. Ross, have you heard of this site? It's like, yeah, I didn't even say anything to them. I just sent a reply with the video timestamped where that is on the Dream Software video. So I figured this is a good, this is a good jumping off spot to think, okay, maybe these questions are kind of dipping in as far as what I should be paying too much attention to. So yeah, I mean, all my thoughts on that are in that video. So, yeah, so go watch that video if you. Although I realize maybe what happened was the people asking this went and just watched the ADHD version at the end, yeah, the ShamWow version, and then that's it. They skipped the rest of it. So okay, this could be my own fault there. So yeah. So yeah, I'm not surprised I got asked that, but I'm surprised I got a lot of votes that it's this high up in the questions. So because then, okay, well that's all right. So yeah, go watch that video. You'll hear all of my thoughts on it. Okay, so oh yeah, they're asking about the Deus Ex Human Revolution fashion show segment I did. Did you write that on your own? Do you have any help with someone who works in a related field? Yeah, I wrote that all on my own. But I was sort of cheating though, and like making it sound more professional than it was. I was just kind of like, here's all I was doing. I was looking at what they were having. I mean looking at their clothes and trying to guess like what material that was, kind of from like the shininess or the way the light refracted from the shaders, that sort of thing. And I would just describe any sort of standout features. I had to look up the ruffles, the Elizabethan collars. I didn't know the term for that. So I had to look that up as to what that was called. I had to look up a couple terms, and then I just stated like the vibe this was giving me. Yeah, like who is a disco king and also attending a Mexican wedding, you know, because like traditional Mexican weddings, like what the groom wears, it's different than like your standard suit. You know, it has more of a distinctive design towards it. It was giving me a bit of that vibe and a bit of like, okay, if this was in the 70s and you're going towards the disco, would this fit? They're like, yeah, it might, you know. So it was just, I was kind of cheating with all of it. It was just, I don't actually know that much about fashion. I was just kind of giving the impression that it sounded like I did, but what was standing out to me was, okay, this is a prequel and we are going all in on our lavish design. Our clothes are standing out more than the original game. So that's kind of what I'm going after with that. But and I had good music picks for that too. I think it was from the Leisure Suit Larry, Magna Cum Laude, and the Postal 2 with the club music. So. Oh, okay, get to feel dumb again. Have you had any further contact with any of the legal... okay, this is a different question. Have you had any further contact with any of the legal backlash people who responded and had conversations with you about the Games as a Services fraud video? Yeah, I misread it. No, I haven't. Though, if people want me to go on and talk about it more, I can. Though, I sort of have this rule now for like doing other interviews is... I want something where the other, if it's for a law perspective, they get to waive this rule. But in general, I like the person to at least have a video with 100 views on it, because I figure if you're trying to make a channel name, you can hit that. I think it can take some time, and that's not meant to be like, oh, I'm too good for your channel. It's just like a time management thing, because if the person only has like 7 views, it's like, well, this probably isn't going to reach too many people, and like my time probably be better spent kind of getting more videos out. But this reminds me, I really need to buckle down and get more done on the trying to get things rolling in France with the law, because that's our best shot. I'm embarrassed to say how far behind I am on that, but I'm gonna get. like I really almost want to like get it all done by next month. So or not save gaming because the legal process won't work that fast, but as much as I possibly can done, or at least know exactly how far I need to go with that by next month. There's some contacts I've gotten. I need to reach out to some people and then get a plan of action going on. Okay, yeah, 3840 for the timestamp for the talking about no clip website. Let's see. Do you plan to make any more Game Dungeon episodes for more recent games like Wolfenstein? Well, I was going to say, I guess Wolfenstein doesn't really count as like a more recent game now. I mean, that came out 2009. So, however, I actually am going to be kind of shying away from newer games for a while, just because I feel very lucky I have the video card I do, but you know, my GeForce 1070, but that was donated by a fan. So I don't want to rub that in for people. You know, I want to cover games that, like, if your computer's 10 years old, you know, you can still run these games, you know. So I kind of want to drift more towards that. Stuff that your computer's not holding you back. And so I'm probably going to be skewing more towards older games for a while. I mean, but that can mean a lot of things. That can mean like 2000s 3D or DOS or Commodore 64, that sort of thing. So, yeah. So somebody's saying, should we expect the Dune 2016 game legend in the future? Possibly. But that's still more on the recent side. Like Echo was kind of even more recent than I kind of wanted to, but things were sort of underway by then. So yeah, the next few game dungeons are not going to be the most modern games. I guess it's a bit of a spoiler there. So until the situation has improved, or unless I see a game I'm just dying to comment on that's more modern, but so far I can't think of any like that. Or it could be more modern, but not that demanding, like, you know, like the 2D one, that sort of thing. Because like I don't want to rub it in, you know. Like, well, I mean, even my card, I can't hit like, well, in my screen resolution, I tested it. I can't hit Cyberpunk at 60 frames a second from the benchmarks. I couldn't hit Quantum Break at 60 frames a second. That's one I definitely want to play. So there are a few others, but so I'm not playing anything super recent, but I mean, I'm sure I could if I put everything down to low and ran it at 1080 with no anti-aliasing, but I figure, you know, why, if I can just wait and get a better experience, why not just play something older, you know? Yeah, well, somebody was saying Cyberbug. I'm still waiting on Cyber, besides how demanding the game is graphically, I'm still waiting for the game to be finished. So I might be waiting, or finished or abandoned, whichever comes first, and I hope it's finished. So, because I mean, you know, if I just wait, it'll probably get better. What do you think of Steam Deck and other news related to it? I'm afraid I'm probably not the best person to ask, because I kind of don't care. Because I guess with my lifestyle, you know, I don't really have a commute or something to go towards that I would have to ride the bus or something. So I'm not that interested in mobile gaming overall. Yeah, like somebody's asking, like, what do I think of the price versus the hardware performance? I don't even know what the hardware specs are. But I guess my one thought on it is, hopefully this does more for Linux gaming that can kind of increase the adoption rate a little bit. Like, I heard it went up to like 1% of market share, but I also heard that can also be attributed to just kind of statistical noise, because apparently it went up. Apparently the market share of Steam on Linux went up by, I want to say it was like, I read like 0.11%. So that's enough that like apparently it's been higher than that normally, but hopefully that can kind of hopefully then kind of get more things onto Linux. I'm not optimistic for Linux gaming, but I absolutely hope it does well, because it's basically my escape route if things ever get too awful on Windows. But yeah, that's my one basic thought on it. For mobile gaming in general, in 2009, I actually bought a game device. It was like this homebrew thing. Maybe Chad will know the name of it. I bought it specifically for being able to run like old games emulated, like uh, what like Super Nintendo or Sega or DOS or even yeah, maybe not Commodore 64 so much because you need like a keyboard, but it had an it had an OLED display actually back then. It had a low resolution. No, this predates Raspberry Pi, I think. No, I think this predates Oya too. Let's see, Oya release date. I, I I think I looked it up. Oh yeah, this definitely predates Oya. So this is 2009. Yeah, it was somebody saying RetroArch. I don't know. It was definitely a Linux thing, I think. Definitely an alternate OS. Okay. OLED mobile game. I forget. Yeah, I don't remember the name. I think the name was like some letters like G2SX or PCCX or something like that. It was something like, I forget. I have to do another search. I think this predates Raspberry Pi. When did Raspberry Pi come out? That came out. Oh yeah, this predates Raspberry Pi. So anyway, it was pretty neat, but I ended up returning it because it had screen tearing. PCSX2, is that the, that might be, I think it had a G in the name. Jeez, what was, okay, so chat can try and figure this out. Oh, that's a PS2 emulator. Yeah, so no, it's not that. There's actually a name. Damn it. I saw this earlier, but then I forgot the name, and then, well, anyway, I think if it's what I'm thinking of, it was like 240 megahertz. It had a 320 by 240 resolution screen, which was fine because all I wanted to do was old 2D games on it. My general attitude about mobile gaming, which I'm probably an outlier, is that if I'm doing mobile, I kind of want 2D stuff for a couple reasons. Because this might have been like GPX or something. Was it something like that? Let's see. I thought I had another letter in the name. Maybe I'll do an image search and I can find it then. The like GCPX, GSPX. Geez. GP2X. That sounds like it could be it. And I think there's multiple versions. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Okay. Yeah. State 01. You got it. Yeah. So I bought the GP2X. That had an OLED screen. It was just meant for kind of like homebrew games. But yeah, I wanted 2D for two reasons. One, it's like, well, one, I've always been garbage with like thumbstick controls for 3D games. So yeah, I guess three reasons. But two, like 2D stuff tends to be kind of like pixel art, more pronounced and easy to focus on. So if like I'm in like a crowded environment or there's lots of distractions, I kind of want something that's easier to focus on rather than something I want to get like really in depth to get into, you know? So like something like platformers or like real basic kind of a lot of pixel art games are like good candidates for it because my brain's attention is not siphoned off too much by the background information because it's easier to focus on what I'm looking at. And then the other big reason is just battery life. Because, you know, I mean, I guess that's less of an issue now, but, you know, if you get a 2D game in the right emulator, or you can sip on battery life. Whereas if you're running in 3D, man, that's going to tax it a lot more. Now, there's been a lot of improvements since then, but especially now, I mean, especially then, like, I'd rather play a 2D game hours longer than some 3D effects game that I have to cut off sooner because I ran out of battery power, you know? So it's for mobile gaming. For me personally, I feel like 2D kind of retro style gaming is where it's at for multiple reasons. But I'm not I'm not buying a deck, so obviously people like it. Great. I hope it helps Linux gaming. That's about all I have to think about it. But yeah, the GP2X. But yeah, I returned it because it had weird screen tearing effect in a diagonal across the screen, which I'd never seen it in a diagonal before. But I found that too distracting. Otherwise, I'd probably still have it. But yeah, it was pretty slick looking, I thought. You can, yeah, here. Well, it's on Wikipedia, the GP2X. And I don't remember which version I had. There was more than one. But yeah, it was exactly the sort of thing I was looking for, except for the screen. But yeah, OLED in 2009 display. Let's see. So, yeah, somebody's saying they hacked PS Vita. I think this predates the PS Vita. When did maybe not. Release date. Yep, 2000. This predates the PS Vita. So yeah, this was like pretty good for its time. But if they had fixed the screen, I'd probably still have it for use. Maybe they did. I don't know. But yeah, I don't travel enough to really warrant it. So. Hopefully, people who get it are happy with it. I'm much more interested in what Valve's doing on the VR front. But okay, they're asking how do I handle scripts. I just kind of sit down and start writing. Basically, can kind of go back and forth. Is there food from a video game you want to eat the most? I try not to have thoughts like that. You know, I'm in my late 30s now, so my metabolism's kind of catching up, so I can't just eat anything with no consequence anymore. So focusing on tasty foods is like, those are, you know, to do another Warhammer reference, you know, ignorance is a virtue when it comes to tasty food as you get older, you know. So it's, let's see. I mean, unless you really like cooking, then you have a lot more options if you enjoy cooking. You can probably make something healthy that's tasty also, but I'm not good at that. So, I mean, I'm okay cooking. I just don't like it. It's doing it. In Bullies, you expressed concern about losing your hair, possibly due to genes. It's been a few years now. Did you worry for nothing, or is there still a possibility you'll join us in the future? Well, it's always there. I mean, my uncle. I mean, he's Lex Luthor bald, you know, on my mother's side, and I had another uncle who was kind of balding, but he hung in there more. I guess my dad's side is shoring me up because it did seem to retreat a little bit, but yeah, I guess it sort of stopped. Because like everybody, all the men on my dad's side of the family, no problems at all with baldness. So, what was the thought I had? Yeah, okay. I have heard this could just be my imagination or or just coincidence, but I have felt like in the past, I felt like my hairline was declining a little bit when I had like milk or stuff with lots of milk in it. And the thing is, with what causes baldness, it's related to hormones. So if they're giving these milk production hormones to the cows and then it travels through into the milk, yeah, maybe that could aggravate it. I mean, I don't know. This could be my imagination, but I thought I noticed a correlation. When I had like more milk, I would see that. So yeah, avoid like, I mean, now if you got it like straight off a farm and you know the cows aren't being fed anything fishy, then it's probably fine. But yeah, you might want to avoid like mainstream store-bought milk if you're worried about baldness or some other dairy. That's maybe, I don't know. You know, so that's the best advice I can give there. Okay, we have a question that sounds like a reference to something I forgot about, maybe in Freeman's mind, so I'm going to skip ahead. I'm not even sure what I said. Okay, this is asking about music in the South Korean market, which I know nothing about. Oh, okay. Oh, they pulled hundreds of K-pop songs off Spotify shortly after Spotify entered the South Korean market. Oh, probably because they're like a competition thing. Do you worry more of these services where you pay for access to music and other media could be at the risk of? Oh yeah, that's omnipresent. That risk is always there. I mean, it's for pretty much all media that's digital that you can't save it. Now, if you can save copies of it, then just go for. Go for it, because then at least you can navigate something stable within the choppy business waters where you might lose access to it, because then you got in there and got what you wanted, But if you have to rely on it streaming, the message here is corporations have proven time and time again they are horrible. I want to say, I'm losing the word. I want to say like guards, something with a C. I feel like it was like contenders or horrible custodians, I guess. They're horrible custodians, even though I was thinking of another word, of media. So they are reliable as like leaving it out like at a friend's house and then not knowing what happened to it. That's about how reliable they are. Or caretakers, maybe that was, so they've shown they do not, either they don't care or their business practices make it impossible for them to care in a substantive way. So, I'm thinking of like how, Forza, Microsoft delisted Forza Horizon 3 and like, okay, but when did, here, I'm gonna pull out the crystal ball here. Okay, let's see. When was Forza Horizon 4 released? Okay, I'm gonna pull out the crystal ball, make a bold prediction here, and say Microsoft is gonna delist Forza Horizon 4 sometime next year, because we seem to have a consistent pattern here. So we'll see if that happens. You can, if I don't make it to the end next year, I'll eat my words on it. But so just probably because of licensing issues, they don't want to deal with it. So it's like even if the developers care, that they can't care, that they can't afford to care legally. That they want more people to play the game. Yeah, so far my crew run estimation might have been a bit pessimistic, so maybe Ubisoft is holding their own longer, but no, Microsoft. 4 years in after Forza Horizon 3 is delisted, and I see no reason why 4 won't be any different, and maybe there are other games. So that's it blows my mind because how much work goes into making a game like that. It looks gorgeous. And it probably has really long-term replay value. Like if you wanted to play a game where you drive in Australia, that's probably your number one pick. It's not. I guess some games they sort of it's rougher to go back to, where not many people are. Yeah, only freaks like me are going to want to go back to these weird games released in the past. But like it's a driving game that looks pretty good. Why? There are going to be people playing that are just driving fans like 10 years from now or want to. It's not it's not going to be just people who are just curious about what weird thing came out. So it just shows so little respect for everyone involved. Like the people who, that's kind of like not make you feel great as a developer too, because you put all that work into making such a fantastic game, and now you can't even get your friends or family to see it without jumping through all these hoops to play it, like because you can't buy the game anymore. Yeah. Okay, I'll trust this. This person's talking about VR. They're saying, but it's prohibitively expensive. I've got to push back against this because, you know, I've mentioned this before. Yeah, that's yes, it absolutely can be prohibitively expensive. Oh wow, is there a new article on this? Oh, I'll have to read this later. This ties in with what I was going to say though, is that the yeah, this is what I wanted. Okay. The media, the tech media, in my eyes, has been like, I want to say like a 90% failure in covering VR. Okay, like look at tech media journalists, like people who are supposed to know this industry, who cover VR, you know, so they're not just like covering smartphones or something. Like this is like their wheelhouse. How many of them know about the existence of the Lenovo Explorer, the Dell Visor, the HP, was it, I think it was like VR 1000, the Acer mixed reality headset. Yeah, okay, there's some. The Acer AH101. The God, there's more I forgot the name of. Where these were all cheap mix. Well, the ones I listed were all cheap mixed reality. Oh, someone's saying sub $300 headsets. Some of these were around 100, and they had like they weren't the best panels, but they were decent. I mean, like to get your foot in, to get your toe in the water, they're absolutely good. And some of these, like, yeah, these were sub $300 pants, and these were years ago, before like the Oculus was what's the cheap one now? The Quest, I forget. Yeah, see, they've gone pricey now, but the tech media never covered these, or worse. It's not that they never covered these; they were just flat out. They basically committed journalistic malpractice, as far as I'm concerned. I almost wanted to do this as like a standalone video, but I figure there's better use of my time. Where they would say things that were factually incorrect. Like they would come out and say, "Oh, this Quest, or no, yeah, this one by Vive or basically all they know the existence of was Oculus and Vive, and then later the Valve Index." And they would say, like, this is the highest resolution VR headset on the market today, and that was totally false. Like because I remember at the time there'd be the HP Reverb, not the Reverb 2, but the Reverb 1, and like the Pimax ones. Just, this is objectively false information that in like a lot of tech media. Like PC Gamer did an awful job on it. So there were all these cheap options. People never knew they existed. And then then they didn't do well. And then now there's a shortage of everything. So yeah, I was gonna say on the video card side of things, it probably is prohibitively expensive right now. Yeah, now is an awesome time to be into old games, or else either already have hardware. I mean, but hey, you know, even on my Samsung Odyssey Plus, which has gone up in value, I bet even on some older systems you could be running Unreal like I did, or Quake 2 or something like that. And I am actually floored how impressive it is. So I have to push back against that. Yeah, right now I have to. Okay, that's good. They're mentioning 2 Clicks Phillips did a video on a cheap one. Good. Well, somebody covered it at least. Yeah, just so people know they have options, you know? Like, I mean, if people know they have the options, then they just don't care, well, that's okay. But like, I'm just thinking like mainstream tech media just did a horrendous job on VR, where when you're stating factually incorrect information, I mean, that's journalistic malpractice. I mean, or they would say, oh, this one has the largest field of view. It's like, well, yeah, if all you know about is Oculus and Vive. So, I have far more faith in 2 Clicks Phillips than a lot of tech media. But yeah, okay, so let me get the rest of this. So I had to push back against that. Yeah, it's become kind of prohibitively expensive now, but so have video cards. I mean, like, that was an awful time to get video cards. So that's why I kind of want to stoke the fires more of like old games where you could even have integrated graphics and still be having a good time. So, yeah. So, yeah, this person thinks it's undeniably the next big thing. I honestly don't know. I mean, for me, it's like approaching meaning of life stuff for what I'm not doing with it. But I don't know if it'll ever catch on in a large way. However, I think it's pretty safely in like cult, uh, niche cult status appeal right now. So yeah, it's not going away. It's like people who do racing or driving sims. That market's smaller than like the normal gaming market, but it's not going away. There's too many diehard fans for that sort of thing. And there's some good crossover between people who like Sims and people who like VR. So, you know, and he's wondering, if the prices come down more reasonable, you think I'm more accessible, make a catch on? Well, I'm quoting, paraphrasing Palmer Luckey here, who probably knows more about VR than I ever will. He said that even if the VR headsets were free, you probably wouldn't see a huge uptick because it's like, in his opinion, it takes like a certain personality to like want to do this, and I can sort of see that. You kind of need to go the extra mile to kind of get into VR because it's something you put on your head and configure as opposed to just putting in a game, starting and playing. That's a lot easier. And so, and then there's hurdles to get over besides the price, getting used to the 3D perspective. I mean, even now, I probably can't handle like a lot of regular VR games for more than 20 minutes. And even then, like I remember Elite Dangerous got to me with like in under a minute. And I'm a diehard. Like I really want to get into these worlds. So I'm willing to throw myself at it again and again to like get in. And even what I'm talking about with like, playing stuff like, old games like Quake 2 or Unreal, you have to do some tinkering. There's no way around it. So there's some barriers to it. But I wouldn't be worried about it going away, although I guess we're seeing a lot of the players fall off, that it's not, the market's too, it's probably going to be, I've said it, I don't know how many times now, VR now, or I guess previously, was sort of like video cards in 2000, where you didn't just have like ATI and NVIDIA or 3DFX, you also had like Matrox, X3, was it Verendite? Was it like the Rendite? Jeez, I forgot the name of it. There might have been another one I'm thinking. So there was all these competition, but nowadays it's pretty much AMD and NVIDIA is all that's left. So that might be what happens. Thankfully, it's not just Oculus. And I think there's some more coming out too. See, there's another VR. Yeah, it was like the Pico VR that was sort of like a competition for the Quest, I think, where it was like a standalone wireless one. Yeah, it doesn't help that there's people with niche interest within VR, because some people, like, they don't want to even touch it if it's wired, and they care more about like the controls and moving around, whereas I'm fine sitting down. I just want it to make it feel like I'm there in the game. And that's what, and all this other stuff's extra, and not throw up. That's high up on my list. So. But yeah, shorter question: if this VR generation fails, if it fails, something else is going to emerge. What do you want out of VR in 2035? I almost want to say everything I want is there. I guess really solid drivers you can install offline, so we don't have this online dependence on. This is such crap, and you're buying hardware. Let's get rid of the DRM on hardware, because even on what I have, I came to the conclusion there is no way to use it without connecting to the internet first and downloading it. And I don't mean downloading the drivers, I mean connecting your system to it and then authenticating. Now after that, you can make image file. Like, my VR hasn't been hooked up to the internet since November, really. But it's like, why do we have this vulnerability? Or can we have like legal consequences for this if like you can't use it? Because, I mean, in my opinion, what Facebook's doing shouldn't even be legal, with like the requirement of it for the, like of a Facebook account for the hardware. And I mean, or just the drivers. Like, okay, like let's say you want to, they will have their ecosystem that they want you to log into. Okay, fine. But you bought a piece of hardware. For them to require a login for drivers that you have to connect online that they can screw up later, like I'm basically ready to, well, I've been such, not that I was a big shopper with this anyway. I'm like I really like to hold out and to get like the best I can at the time. But I'm basically sticking with boycotting Oculus indefinitely because I saw what they did with software to support to the DK, to the DK 1 and 2. I mean, they basically treated you, they did this, and they were so obnoxious about this, where, like, okay, they don't want to support it. Fine. Can we at least download the drivers for it? And they had these beta drivers you could download for it, or you could connect to Oculus Rift portal, which they required in order to get the new drivers. And then with that, then you can run it with all sorts of minor programs like Steam VR stuff. But there was literally impossible to get those drivers without connecting through their program. And guess what? Because they've dropped support for it, that means your chances of having bugs getting those drivers is extraordinarily high. And then if you didn't firewall it after the fact, then that you could have an update and they could break support for you, which I had happen multiple times until I finally realized I could firewall it after the fact and have it work. I mean, this should not be legal, what they're doing there. It's just, I mean, they're just, it's like they're just barely brushing up against the edge of breaking your hardware. So it's, but that's for a society that cares about that sort of thing, I guess. But yeah, so what would I want out of, so besides that, just have an option, get rid of the DRM. I don't know if this is a good thing or not. I think I might really want it though. I have to try it to know for certain, but I think I really want the wide field of view, because I was noticing on the Samsung Odyssey, that's like the one thing I've really found myself wanting more of. It's like, yeah, it'd be great if I could see more, you know? And of course, just like, let's up the resolution to just ridiculous, like retina levels or something, you know, which is higher than a normal monitor because you're so zoomed in. Even though the screen's a lot smaller, you really want overkill. So far from what I've seen, there's not really an overkill yet for resolution in VR. Whatever the highest option is, maybe like I think it's either the Pimax 8KX or the Reverb 2. I can guarantee you could go higher and you could still see a subtle difference. So yeah, human field of view is 270 degrees. So I think the Oculus, I think the Samsung Odyssey Plus has the second highest field of view for the non-wide ones. Like I think the index is number 1 for the non-wide, and it's like 110 or 130, something around there. So yeah, the thing, and you might think like the performance will be garbage on like a super high resolution, but if we're talking 2035, maybe it won't be. Plus, you don't necessarily have to run it at native resolution, because the higher that gets, as long as the gaps are small enough, you can kind of eliminate the screen door effect. So you might be able to kind of scale your resolutions better. But yeah, just more resolution, get rid of the DRM, a wider field of view. So stuff will probably hit, Pimax I don't think has the DRM on their stuff. So if they were, yeah, I mean, I might have to pull the trigger on Pimax at some point, but unless somebody else comes along with something else, you know. But yeah, it sounds like they might be like the best in best in the field for a lot of categories with the AKX, it sounds like. But now, because DisplayPort or HDMI hasn't caught up yet, you know, you have to get an expensive NVIDIA card to be able to get hit 90 hertz on it. So, well, yeah, okay, I guess the index is still higher on refresh rate. Let's see. What would be a game app that you'd absolutely love to have ripped so you can print out high resolution to hang up as a decoration? I don't know. I still need to finish the Revenant one. Maybe some MMOs. Because those will probably have the most impressive maps. Though I'm not sure I'd really care that much about a strictly 2D map. See, even Revenant, it's kind of isometric. So I kind of would want something where you get to see all these little details. Okay, somebody's asking about the other hell jobs I had. I guess real quick. Okay, I worked for an entomology department where I had to set all these moth traps doing off-trail hiking during the summer. And what sucked about that was I would always have ticks on me, like just always at the end of the day. No matter how I dressed, it was inevitable. And I was worried I was going to get Lyme disease because it happened so often. My first like real job, I was a kitchen steward at a Boy Scout camp where they screwed up in the scheduling, and my hours were already bad, but they ended up having to give me the full brunt of it. Where I am not exaggerating at all. I was working 15 hours a day, and like basically 6 days a week. Like Saturday was a half day and Sunday was a half day. So like I ended up, and the pay was garbage. So I ended up quitting after a few weeks. I was losing sleep. I hated that so much. However, I felt like that gave me a very realistic impression of what to expect from job market. So, you know, I in some way, you know what, that could have even like subtly led to my depression, because I'm thinking, yeah, this is what life is going to be like. So it's like, wow, this sucks, you know? Let's see, what are some other ones? Well, yeah, the tech support where just you never get like more than like 5 seconds of downtime, where that grates on you, you know, where it's like you never. So as soon as you're done with one call, there's another person ready for you. You have to go through the same process, so you don't even get to like space out for like a minute. That kind of grinds you down. And then in the opposite direction, the security guard job where, yeah, okay, well, I mentioned that. We're just all day literally doing nothing, and it starts to work on your mind. So I'm sure there's plenty of other bad jobs out there too. So okay, I'm kind of skipping some more questions. They're asking like the worst game dungeon. I don't know. There's several that have been kind of the worst as far as the toll it took on me. The time travel's coming. Somebody's asking about that. Oh yeah, somebody's asking about the editing for future projects. Oh yeah, this is the KDN Live guy. God, I forgot. This person, I think I remember them doing a promising job on like the first chunk, and I honestly forget what happened on the second one. Like either I didn't like the second half, or else they got too busy, or I need to check my emails. I'm so buried in email right now. Okay, my mind for editors is I'm considering that for ones I feel like I need to be like a little less hands-on, where there's like a lot of things I want to show specifically, and I'm thinking it's just not going to be a time savings having an editor, at least at this point in time. However, like I was fiddling with a USB key here, almost dropped it. I was actually thinking since I'm replaying Unreal, which I haven't played since like early 2000s, or maybe Kingpin. I was thinking, yeah, maybe I could make a game dungeon about this, but like a sort of less committed one, where I'm saying some things, I provide some gameplay footage, but it's not going to be rocket science to put this together in a good enough way, and I could that can maybe be potentially be like a quick episode, because there's some things I want to say on it that like I would have enough trust in another editor to handle that. Whereas I was noticing with Echo, there was a lot of shots that like, or the timing, I really wanted it. So maybe I'll do something like that. Oh, I also need to see what videos YouTube has already made on Unreal. Yeah, because I know Lazy Game Reviews made one. I think there were a couple other ones. So I kind of want to see what everybody's already said. So if I'm just going to repeat what everybody's already said, then there's just not much point to it for me. But okay, more questions. Okay, I didn't. Well, they wrote this one at the beginning, but it was farther down. Is there any person I would want to clone? I don't know. I mean, not everybody's going to be able to handle a clone as well as I think I could. So, no, I don't think. We have a lot of people as it is, you know. Oh yeah, well, okay. This person's asking, there are recent controversies surrounding the Path of Exile update. What is your opinion on developer agency regarding their game? Should they compromise on changes if it goes against their design, if the player base appears to be against it? Or should they just like kind of hold the line? And okay, so when they're asking if I was creating a game, how much weight would I give community criticism or my own judgment? Well, I mean, it really depends on the kind of game. I mean, if it's like a story thing and I feel like this is the right direction for like the story to go, I probably wouldn't care. Well, unless there's like a lot of people saying they have like a real, but if it's like a gameplay thing and a lot of people are disliking one segment, it's like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. This sucks and I could try to change it, or have an option for more than one. So like on easy mode, it's more like what the audience wants if they have a complaint, but on hard mode, then it's more what my vision for what I think. So yeah, I guess this is one of those questions where I don't have a great answer because I can honestly see both sides of this, where the developer might see like a big problems they wanted to fix, but the community may like what they had. So it's kind of like, well, both sides have a point here. And I mean, in a perfect world, what you could do is the developer could keep going full speed ahead with their version, and the community could just run the old version if they wanted to. And so that way the developer's kind of competing against their own work, you know? So that might organically get them to kind of pay more attention to the community. It's like, okay, are people just kind of protesting, but they're kind of coming over to the new one? Or no, they're really staying on the old one. Maybe I should rethink this, you know? But of course, the way we structure games for everything to go to hell online, if once support ends, makes that impossible, or just not a priority for almost every developer because it's being handled irresponsibly, means we don't get that. So yeah, I don't have a great answer for it. That's one where I can see both sides to it. But ideally, of course, I want people to play the version they want. For Path of Exile specifically, they talk about that. Okay, I guess this is going to bore people who aren't familiar with the game. I haven't played it in a while, but I looked at the changes they made, and I have some quick thoughts on that. I actually disagree with the community and maybe like 2 out of 3 points. See what they did? Because, okay, Path of Exile, like I want to say prior to the most recent version, they've had this thing where at higher levels, I want to say 90% of ways you can play the game, like the builds and the classes, they highly incentivized pressing keys for potions at certain points in time, like every 5 or 10 seconds, so that people would call it piano playing, like so it's like a rhythm game. And I always refuse to play that. But the thing is, if you do that, then you're taking a severe handicap in the game. Unless it's like there's some builds that don't require it, and that's all I played because I just didn't want to play a rhythm game, playing a game. I'd rather. I like my potions being like my panic buttons, like bam, I'm down to 3% health. Oh God, you know, like health, run, you know, defense, run away, you know, like So for me, that's how I wanted to use the potions, but that wasn't like for the majority of the player base because they incentivize this thing. So they got rid of that, which kind of, like I said, weakened the your attack damage or how effective you were in the game, which I imagine a lot of people really used to that got pissed about that. And the other change was they had these support gems, which can add weird effects, like 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 or not necessarily weird, but they could like decrease the time on a spell lasts or lengthens it, or multiple projectiles, but they're weaker or more concentrated, all sorts of stuff like that. But the thing is, they would also influence the damage, and like every single build would kind of beeline towards whatever maximized your damage, because that's what mattered the most. So they tried to undo that. So I actually support them kind of breaking up the flask system, because like God, I've been wanting that ever since the game came out. And I mean, if you still want to do that, you can, but it's not like you're an idiot if you do anything but that, except or these other builds, these other few builds. And the other is that I like the idea of more variety to how the people play the game, and not being such an obvious thing that you have to pick these support skills to get the more damage, to kind of have it all be just this one mold. Now so that's what I disagree with the community on, even though I'm not playing it right now. Just conceptually, I like that idea. What they might be right on is maybe the game's too hard now. I don't know. So maybe what they needed to do was, okay, they removed how all this support stuff works, but maybe they need to boost the main spell damage to compensate for that. So I don't know. They mentioned this person mentioned that apparently they're having less players this time around. Yeah, so what I looked, I'll watch all the trailers they have for the new League stuff, but well, one, I don't play Leagues because you have to have a lot of time to burn to play. I think I've said it before, like this would be like if, okay, MMO players, imagine there's a new expansion to your game. So there's like new features, maybe there's like a new area you can go to, but the only way you can access it is to start from level 1. So you cannot even, so if you have like a high level character, you've spent like months or some of you years developing, you can't use them. You have to, and then at the end of 90 days, that character gets rolled into like the main game, and then there's gonna be a new expansion, but you have to start level 1 again. I always thought that was just such garbage mechanic. I mean, yeah, it makes sense for like streamers who are just playing 24/7, or for people who just want to start a new character, or for people who don't play other games, But otherwise, it's just such a waste of your time. You've played through the campaign. You know how it goes. So, yeah, that doesn't respect your time, though. I don't think. So I don't really play the expansions until they roll them in like way after the fact. And the new one didn't sound fun to me. It sounded like complexity for its own sake. Like they had this thing where like you can either buy, you can haggle with NPCs now, which sounds like the last thing I want to do. And then if the haggling goes poorly, then the NPC might not even sell the item to you. But even then, once you haggle, then you have to make a decision whether to buy the item or put like a down payment so that it might come up later or something. Like it just didn't sound fun. I mean, maybe some people like that, but so, and okay, I'll just end this. This is probably a mistake, but I'm going to say exactly what they could do that would make me want to come back to playing the game. Because I want kind of new stuff for it, and not just like a small gameplay mode. Then I know like 95% of the rest of the game. I'd rather play a different game than what they could do that could bring me back potentially a long time. And I'm stupid for saying this, is once you play through the campaign and you've kind of played through sort of the end game stuff, you're basically playing these maps, and there's a little bit of procedural generation, but it's, depending on the map, it's extremely similar. Like, some maps, you always know where this turn is going to be, and then the boss is going to be at this spot, and then you're going to encounter like some device along the way. It's like, I would want to see them just randomize the hell out of this stuff. Go Minecraft with the procedural generation, so that, yeah, this might take place on a beach or a tropical island or a palace, but you don't know what you're going to expect for the layout. And then you can maybe have the maps be a lot bigger too. Like they kind of did this, they sort of did a version of this for this thing they had called the Labyrinth, where they had these general maps, but they could have a pretty big variety in the layout of them. And they could be a lot longer, but then they also filled them with these traps, which are just not fun at all to deal with. So I never did much of that, but I was thinking something like that just for just all their environments. So if you want to go to like the lava island, you go there and you don't know what you're going to get. You know, it could be like a longer strip. It could be more of like this big field, or you could have more randomized like decoration, like maybe there's like a 1% chance you get like this hidden temple within that looks really cool, or or just more decorative things like statues or palm trees on fire. That's like, so just like really break up the monotony of the end stuff, because otherwise it's like, I've seen the game. I don't really need to play more. So, but I'm probably not the target audience. The target audience, I think, are obsessive compulsive people and or streamers for that game. Like, this is the only game they play, or this and like one other game. Whereas I'm bouncing from game to game. Like, I want to play a game, have a great experience, and move on to the next great experience, or something like that. So, but yeah, that might be too much work, and they're working on Path of Exile too. But if they did that, that could bring me back. If they went all in on the procedural generation, so that it really feels like I'm exploring a lot of new areas, but it's not all the work of creating a completely original new area would be, because you can't really have that out you can't have that out in the frequency they have these updates. Okay, so more questions. And I'm only about halfway through them, so I'm going to get even more restrictive now. Mods I consider better than the original game. Well, I'm not sure I was really on board for the gameplay for either one, but I liked the map and the game world too. Was it Nerim? Nehrim, as opposed to Oblivion. Like, I thought the map was a lot cooler in Nerim. I didn't really get into the gameplay of either one. I have not played the new Black Mirror game. I've only played 1 through 3. Would I accept a brain implant if I could experience VR that way? I'd be very conflicted. I think I'd really need to have somebody else guinea pig it. Like, it's the sort of thing I kind of want it already in use for like 10 years to make sure, something to make sure it's relatively safe and it's not gonna lead to some awful health conditions down the line, And then if that has anything online, then no, I would just wouldn't trust it at all, because then they could hack your brain, give you a seizure or something. I don't have plans to do a Game Dungeon on Half-Life. Sorry, there's so many other games I'd rather cover. I've seen an awful lot of Half-Life. Okay. Skipping more questions. Spell from a video game you'd love to learn or think would be useful. Well, I mean, mind control, I'm sure you could come in useful, but that one might not be so ethical, I guess. I mean, the one spell I want is just portal to other worlds, which this is why the VR, playing these games in game worlds is such a big deal for me, because I'm like 1 foot inside of this now. I'm actually very slowly starting to live the dream from this. And don't worry, this isn't going to eat up all my time, because I can't handle much more for an hour at a time. I mean, I could go longer, but it's not pleasant, Whereas the first, 30 minutes to an hour, I'm generally fine. Actually, even if I don't get sick, real quick turning and fast moving isn't nice. I'm playing these games on easy in VR. I mean, I wouldn't do that if I was playing them normally, but in VR, yeah, I'm playing them on easy. I might use cheats, and I'm just not worrying about that. So, because I'm there to sort of take in the world. I have not heard of the Polish Woodstock Festival. And the pandemic, or round 2 of the pandemic's probably going to have a chilling effect on me doing a bunch of that stuff anyway. I mean, if I was like dying to go to some event, then, you know, I mean, I have a vaccine. I might accept the risk, but I'm not, you know, I have local forest access where I am. So I'm taking my wins where I can get them, you know. Okay, this question, I'm certain, Red Brickadam 22. Not only I'm pretty sure I've answered this question on previous video chat, but I think he asked another question that I answered in previous video chat. So I'm kind of, I forget which one. They're asking about like what drove me about Fallout and like Earthbound for turn-based games. So it just, the atmosphere worked. I'll say that. How can human beings act so contradictory or have such a dichotomous nature? Well, the brain's quite complicated, you know. It can vary from situation to situation where a person's ideology might not be consistent, but it can be consistent for different contexts. I'm trying to think of a situation here where, yeah, well, okay, yeah, an easy one. Like, I believe, yeah, like you should probably, for health reasons, having sugar is not a good idea. It's bad for you. You shouldn't have it. And I've been trying my best to stay off it. I've been off it a while now, but I'm totally at risk of slipping in again and it going into a do as I say, not as I do thing, because, you know, I can really want cookies. So that's kind of contradictory. I know it's bad. I know I shouldn't do this, but at the same time, I really want cookies. So it's, yeah, that's a contradictory view, you know. It's brain's not cooperating on that. How do you set up the microphone so you can go from casual talking to shouting without clipping? Just set the, well, 2 things. One, set the sampling volume low. So do a test of yourself shouting. If you see it peak, you know, go to 100% on the waveform, then you know that's too loud. However, some mics, if they're cheap ones especially, it's like no matter what you do, you're going to overwhelm them. I've had that experience with some mics. Like even if you're bringing the volume down real low, just something about them, you can still overwhelm them. So you might need a different mic. It varies, but I think dynamic mics can be better for that sort of thing if you need to shout, or at least for me, that as opposed to condenser ones. Or am I mixing dynamic condenser or mixing cardioid? I always get this mixed up. Like one's the technology type, another's like the direction type that it's sampling from. So. It's not a bad question, but I don't have one answer. I don't have an answer ready, so I'm going to skip things. One's asking about details of Freeman's mind I forgot about. I'm just skipping some more. Do you feel a certain resentment towards console players? Some preferring consoles over PCs. No, not at all. I do feel resentment towards companies kind of locking things down. Like that went double for Microsoft because they had the platform for the PC and they're spending money to keep games off their own platform for the longest time. Like I mentioned in the video. I mean, look, I understand not wanting to just futz around with the PC. I mean, in fact, I think even console players would appreciate the simplicity of old school consoles like Nintendo or Genesis, where you stick the cartridge in, turn the power on, start playing. You know, some games can be that simple, but not necessarily. And look, I mean, I obviously like going deep into games, but if I was working another job and just wanted a game to just relax, you want as little time wasted between, you getting to the game as possible. So I totally get that. And they might want like a more robust support experience, but like when they're spending money to keep the games off other platforms that the developer wants to have on other platforms, I get resentful over that, because there's a good game and it could be, and it goes double for me now because with the stuff I'm unlocking with VR. I mean, I'm playing games, Unreal. I'm playing 90s games. I plan to work my way up with 4:3 aspect ratio games until I can eventually have something widescreen for 16:9 games. I might even do like PlayStation 1 or 2 emulation, that sort of thing, or GameCube. But I'm going through and experiencing these, and just for me personally, is just like one of the most fantastic things possible for me. Like I'm getting to experience this world, like I'm really looking around, like I'm actually there. You're not doing that on the console. I mean, yeah, there's the PlayStation VR now, but how many games is that? It's just gonna be like a handful. Whereas I might be able to crack open basically every 3D console game that has that there's an emulator exists for, and a lot of old PC games. So it's like these are like really tangible things that I can get on the PC. I can't get on the console. So I really hate it when it's just like money grab approaches to keep it off a platform when the people creating the game want more people to experience it. And it's just kind of the money man standing in between all this. So, but yeah, for console, no, I totally get wanting the simplicity of a console. Like, look, you will find out more about this in a future video. I won't say much more of that, but there's plenty of games, like I don't really enjoy troubleshooting. It's just I like the light what I'm going for is the light at the end of the tunnel from all that. So, I mean, it took me like 10 tries to get Unreal working because at first I got this like Z buffer map mode that wasn't as good. And then like advice was saying, oh no, run Unreal with this patch. Oh no, don't run it with this patch. Yeah, I ended up using the 227 patch in OpenGL mode is what ended up working. Or run it in Direct 3D9 mode. And it's like, it technically worked, but the depth was just garbage. And for me, the depth in VR, it's like you either need all or nothing. Like it's in between just leaves that, it's no good for me. Like I need to feel like I'm in that world, not just looking at like something with an image with a little bit of depth. No, I may as well just play 2D then. But so yeah, I mean, I really like what I can do with the PC, but I don't love all of it. So no, I totally understand the simplicity of wanting the simplicity and just less of a headache, Have I ever shot guns for fun? Well, once. I guess I got to shoot an air rifle back at Boy Scouts at a camp, and then later I ended up doing, when I thought I might be going into law enforcement, I did the sort of student police academy program is what they called it, which they just sort of ran you by just sort of highlights of what police went through, and they kind of had some fun parts. And for one of it, they brought you to a range, and I got to fire a Glock 22 and a MP5. So that's about it for gun shooting that I've done. I mean, it could be all right, I guess, but I mean, that's kind of expensive if you're not really into it. I think I mentioned before, I would 10 times want to just play paintball more, because then it's like, then your shots mean something, rather than just hitting a target, then it's kind of like we're having the game aspect of it, like you get tactics thrown in there, and you're against a live opponent. So but it's not, yeah, and there's, you don't have to worry as much about gun safety then too, if you're just shooting paintballs. So yeah, I'd love to be able to play paintball again, but I don't really miss like target shooting. It's all right, but I haven't played the Outer Wilds. I don't have a copy of the Outer Wilds, but that's on my list, on the games list. So it's one of the questions. They're asking something about Freeman's Mind. I don't really want to think about right now. Let's see. I actually haven't played Batman Arkham Asylum. I'm not huge into Batman. I mean, I can like aspects of it, but they're asking about the combat from it, and that got ported to other games. I tried playing a little bit of, the Mad Max game, but didn't really get into it. The combat just sort of seemed okay. I guess at some point I'll try to play Shadow of Mordor. That's one where the environment's kind of turned me off, because it's like, oh, that's a bunch of like desert and arid land in the game. It's like, well, maybe a lot of people say it's great, but I don't know, Have you seen any cool movies recently? Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess you should do the update on what I did past month for free time. Yeah, well, there's one I saw. Okay, I was surprised. People were really divided on this movie. So I may lose a lot of the respect of the audience for saying this one. I got to see a couple new ones. I really liked the first half of this, and then I thought it was just sort of okay in the second half. The Tomorrow War. A lot of people really hated that one. I was surprised. I loved the presentation of it. It is a movie that has some dumb premises and dumb aspects of it, but I was liking the atmosphere and the sort of sci-fi thought premise of it. That it was like a real interesting scenario to think about. That I was just loving it for the first parts, even with the. So if somebody criticizes it that like this is a dumb movie, it's like they have their points, but I would compare it to I would say as far as seriousness, it's somewhere in between Independence Day and Edge of Tomorrow. So it's like goofier than Edge of Tomorrow, but like a little more serious than Independence Day. But I'd love to get more kind of like high stakes sci-fi movies. In fact, I'm kind of scraping the barrel for what I can find on like sci-fi adventure movies or just really interesting aspects. Yeah, I saw a couple other good ones. One was No Sudden Moves. That one, I would compare that. That one's a confusing movie though, and it's like it has like real subtle humor to it. Like I would compare it to the movie Burn After Reading. The humor is more subtle. It's like a '50s mobster version of that. It was directed by Steven Soderbergh, so you kind of have if you've seen his movies, you can kind of get an idea of what to expect. It was pretty good. There were some funny parts in that. And the other good one I saw, well, mixed good. Definitely not for everybody. But it had some parts I liked. The Dead Don't Die. And with Bill Murray, it has a lot of stars. Bill Murray, Tom Waits, that I don't remember his name. The guy who played the main bad guy in the new Star Wars. With the mask. I'm sure the chat will know him. But I would describe that this is like a very chill zombie apocalypse movie. Okay, somebody's saying Adam Driver. Yeah, that's probably him. And it sort of reminded me of like a older movie called Bottle Rocket. I think it was by Wes Anderson. So it's like very chill, but then it has Steve Buscemi in it also. Or was it, what's her name? Tilda Swinton. She's in it too. And so, and again, the humor is very kind of subtle. But I was laughing at a couple parts of it though. Like if you like this sort of subdued, kind of laid back humor. Like I think you might enjoy it. I think they didn't really know how to end the movie though. Like the ending kind of didn't really work for me. But um, yeah, I enjoyed most of it. I enjoyed like three quarters of. Oh yeah, what was it Danny Glover? I think is that it? Yes, it had a bunch of people. And but yeah, it's like a very chill, kind of slow going movie. But it's also about the zombie apocalypse, and it has like a lot of sort of surreal, sort of off kilter humor in it. But yeah, it does break the fourth wall towards the end. I guess it's a bit of a spoiler. Yeah, I think they didn't know how to handle the end. But I haven't finished it, but I started. I think I mentioned back a chat again. I think I'm like 2/3 through it. I was just sometimes I'll just watch a movie in chunks until I'm too tired and then just go to bed. Like at the end of the day, I've been working and then like I don't really have time to stay up for like a full movie. But if I think the movie could be really good, I try to watch it all at once. But if it's one that's like, well, I don't know, then I'll watch it in chunks. Um, the what? Oh yeah, actually, The Dead Don't Die. It sort of had like hints of sort of like Fargo or Twin Peaks feel to it. So if you like that, you might want to give it a look. I mean, it's not a perfect movie, but there's very likely parts that you'll like if you like that sort of thing. That sort of subtle humor. Yeah. So I wanted to rewatch it because I realized I barely remembered it. I thought, okay, how bad is this movie really? Because it came up in video game movies. I wanted to rewatch Double Dragon again, and it holds up quite well actually. It's a very goofy movie. I found but I think I almost might enjoy it more now than when I was younger because it gets like cheesy and over the top in the right ways a lot of the time and has a really cool atmosphere. And I was really laughing at some parts just probably because of like how cheesy it got. And also it helps that they're what it helps. Yeah. This is like sort of dystopian future movie, and the movie was made in the '90s, and it takes place in 2007. so I like, it's funny like their guesses on dystopia. It's like in some ways I think they're kind of ahead of their time still. Like it's like yeah, I can kind of still see things going this way, but we're not there yet. And other times it's like full '90s like or '80s like perception of the future. I remember there was a meme about Back to the Future 2, and they're talking about the future, and they're showing like the gangs of hoverboards, like the '80s, except way more '80s. like, so it's a very fun movie. If you're not looking, and in fact, I'm actually wondering now, this might be the winner for most fun video game movie based off a video game. I mean, I think Super Mario Brothers and maybe the Mortal Kombat, the first one, might be in the running for like most fun one. Like if you just want like a fun movie that's not taking itself too seriously, want some laugh at that, it's way up there. I think for video game movies, it's not the best movie, but I went in with low expectations and it exceeded the low expectations. That definitely. That's the best way to put it. Although, I mean, maybe people might disagree on this. A while back, this is a few months back, I saw the new Mortal Kombat, and my expectation. I think I was very disappointed by that one. I think the original one outdid it handily. And the original one was not a great movie. Like it's just kind of, in the land of the blind, the man with one eye is king. And speaking of which, the one aspect I thought the new one did well was Kano was good. Like Kano's lines were kind of on point and he was a fun character. Everybody else, it just felt so soulless. It felt like this kind of like made for TV, we're filling in time stuff. I don't know. I just couldn't get attached to any of the characters. and I'm a Mortal Kombat fan. I mean, it's like, yeah, and then like the music was just the music almost worked for like the opening scene, and then the rest of it was just like almost painful for like just so soulless. Just it's like let's just throw in generic orchestra, and then like at one point they have a hint of the Mortal Kombat theme like in the orchestra. Meanwhile, compare that to the original. The original, we get the flaming dragon, and we started with like the techno theme, and then Mortal Kombat. The music, and even the orchestra parts of the original was kind of cool. It had like this kind of like mystical Eastern approach to it. Like I feel like the original one's so much. I don't know. The new one just felt like so much like a soulless remake to me. Like I mean, it did just no heart, no heart at all. Like in my opinion, and I don't care if I upset people who worked on it, which is probably like nobody watches this anyway, because I mean they probably know. I mean I'm sure like people. Okay, I'm not trying to come down on people like costume design, like stuff where you did it. That's not really related to like the writing or the acting or direction or that's just they probably did a good job on that, I guess. But it just whereas the original one was sort of more like kind of dumb fun, but still had like the atmospheric elements of the game that were pretty cool, with the temples and the going to a mysterious island kind of thing, and there's lots of mysticism going on. So another person said Kano was the only good. Yeah, Kano, but see, Kano was fine in the original too. So yeah, Kano was good in both movies. That's it. Like, okay, I might have to read everything this person's typing later. This might be better for email. It's hard for me to keep track of it, like lots of writing while I'm doing this. Okay. Somebody has a question about the pandemic that I don't want the video to get flagged, and I don't have an easy answer anyway. I'm not an expert on like medical stuff, guys. Like when I think of vaccines, I think like my first thought is always like there's this old black and white movie about like it was like a biography of Louis Pasteur, and so it basically sent the message that like vaccines are a really big deal. They're like as far as advancing like longevity of society, and there's one scene I always remember from it where like the local medical community is kind of catching on to Louis Pasteur's methods, of him having a much better success rate with patients for operations. So one of them's coming to learn from him, but he's still pretty skeptical. So he's like going along with them and like sterilizing his instruments, boiling it in water. And then like, okay, he's going along and like washing his hands, before the operation. And then after he's done that, like Louis Pasteur is kind of following him, and then he goes and like he goes and sees a dog there, it's all friendly. So he goes and pets the dog, and then Louis Pasteur grabs him and says, "No, now you need to go back and wash your hands again." And I remember the guy's reaction is like, "Are you kidding me? Like, are you serious? Like, I just washed the hand. Like, I'm doing it your way. You want me to do this again? Like, So. I remember that scene stuck out to me. I saw that as a kid. It's an old black and white movie, but yeah, just I imagine medical professionals know what people who have spent their whole lives studying medicine generally know what they're talking about. Though it's I can understand some skepticism for like a vaccine that got rushed out so fast. However, we have so many data points to work with that if this was like end of times level thing, that we would probably be seeing the results by now. I mean, okay, I should get into this. Isn't really what I want to take the conversation anyway. Like again, I don't know. I know some basic first aid, and I know how things like cells work and the concept of vaccines and so I know like real basic medical stuff. That's it. So my opinion shouldn't even matter. You- I could tell I'm more qualified to talk about games in VR, I think. And even then, I still need to experience more stuff. Okay. Something about loot boxes. Well, this is something I've mentioned a lot anyway. I don't want to bore people with repeating myself too much. My favorite character from Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. And I think it would be Jack. I had to look up. I didn't really think about that so much, but yeah, that would probably be it, Jack. He was like the former pirate, sort of looked like Rob Zombie. It would either be him or there was like this weapons dealer. I think he was a human. He was I want to say it was like Big Larry or Fat Larry or something. He had a lot of good dialogue. I remember. I forget exactly his name. I'm sure people who play the game know who I'm talking about. So yeah, it would probably be one of those two for favorite character. Sorry, I'm just gonna skip more questions. This has been going on a while. Yeah, somebody's talking about the reshader thing for VR. Oh, yeah, this might be like AMD. Yeah, they just released that, like AMD's upscaling option, but I think it's still game dependent. Though maybe that got implemented into Reshade, but the question is, how will that look? But the thing is, that actually might fight with VorpX, like having Reshade. Now, Reshade does have like super depth 3D or VR, which I plan to use. That's like the backup option. That's the one where it uses the Z buffer to try to get the 3D data and wrap it around. And that may have a better compatibility rating with the games. However, the best way to do VR stereoscopic is to just render the scene in two different eyes. But when that's not an option, I plan to give that more of a look into it. Now VorpX does support like the Z buffer option, but in my opinion, it's almost worthless because the depth is so low. And because I looked at this on the thread, like the author of this said he could allow it to go higher, but it would lead to visual artifacts. But so he just wants to keep it toned down. But to me, it's like, I'd rather take the visual artifacts and have good depth because it would look a little weird on the edges, but have the good depth than just something that looks nice, but then it's almost flat. It's just, I need all or nothing in VR when it comes to depth. So I would recommend against VorpX over Reshade with the Super Depth VR plugin for the Z buffer method. So, somebody's saying they can't deal with Z buffer artifacts. Well, then maybe this is a subjective thing, but again, I need all or nothing with my depth. Like I don't feel like I'm in the world if the depth isn't high enough, you know? Okay. Hope Freeman's Mind is next. It's not, I'm sorry, but I promise the voice work will be done on Freeman's Mind soon, and I'll at least give you the blooper. You can try to speculate what the blooper. So this is the blooper for episode 15, I think, if I get the numbers right. And all these bloopers, they happened like organically. This is one that was recreatable though, so I actually re-recorded the footage to kind of add some dialogue to it. It's still going to be really short, but the others, those just happened as in the game. But since I was able to recreate this one, I made it like a little better to watch. Oh, and for changes for the game, there is a small change I have coming up that will be kind of persistent. That's part of what, but I don't have any other big ones planned at least. I mean, if there's something that really bugs me, then I might change it, but I don't have any others planned. The dam was the big one that I wanted that change because it just didn't fit his personality or the believability. Do you enjoy exploring real world at all? Hiking, seeing great architecture of past and present? It's for traveling. Yes, but that there's more. Those take more time and resources, and they can't get as fantastic as what you can do in games. So yeah, I mean, I've explored a pretty wide radius of around where I live right now, When I visited Warsaw to get my passport renewed, Magda wasn't feeling so great and wanted to stay in the hotel we were renting, and so she just took a nap or just wanted to stay in for a little while. I just went and just explored as much as the city as I possibly could on foot. Just yeah. Also, when I was staying in New York with a relative, New York City, I kind of did something similar. I just tried to see everything. Um, the only thing that kind of sucks about city exploration is the car. I almost want to say wear earplugs because the noise from the cars can kind of grind you down after a while. But yeah, no, I like exploration in general. It's just that, uh, it takes a lot of time and money to travel to places that it kind of, and then I can't see like space stations and, gigantic fantasy forests or something like that in reality. So, thoughts on the Activision Blizzard lawsuit, the sexual harassment of female employees? Do you ever think they'll be able to rebuild their reputation? No, they've been set fire to their reputation even before this got out. Yeah, I don't know all the details of it. I just assume it was bad. Like, I mean, the I feel I tend to assume that just any major AAA company is just doing something bad. Like, okay, it's sexual harassment at Blizzard. I think there was sexual harassment at Rockstar also. Yeah, I think there was also sexual harassment at Ubisoft. There might be some others, but even without that, let's say this AAA company, no sexual harassment, totally friendly work environment for, whatever your gender, race is, whatever, nobody's harassing you. Okay, well then you're still probably going to be working like this 80 to 100 hour work weeks, not getting extra pay, and then maybe they fire you at the end of it or give you unrealistic deadlines and try to promote a company culture to just grind you into paste. I mean, I think they're almost all of them are doing that. So it's just, I just assume these are just places nobody should work. And I mean, maybe there's a few, for some positions, I'm looking at the company as like a whole. So obviously there could be like a high level senior art designer or something where it's like, oh, it's not like that for us, Well, yeah, but maybe you're not doing the coding at the end or, during the crunch time or things move at a comfortable pace for you. You can't just take one anecdotal story. You have to kind of look at the culmination. So I assume like no AAA company is a good place to work. It is, and it probably tends to hold true. I mean, some of the stuff is pretty terms of service, which is something one. Oh, okay. I don't. I guess I'm getting confused. Oh, okay. Somebody saying one of them killed themselves. Well, you know what? I think that for the harassment, that is very bad. And I think that might have happened at another company too. I'd have to do some research. Not from harassment necessarily, but from just overwork, just like putting people in these awful positions psychologically. This is why having like a baseline of having your basic needs met is so important. Knowing that even if you got fired and lose things, well then okay, you still get to eat. You still are gonna have a place to live. You can still get medical care. That stuff's so important, and it goes into what you I lost my train of thought here, but you're gonna have a lot of problems the longer that doesn't get addressed. So yeah, it's obviously none of it's good at Blizzard. Yeah, but they were kind of burning their reputation for more petty stuff even before this, like the, what was it, Diablo Immortal, or the. See, it's more fun to talk about that stuff. This stuff gets pretty dark fast. I thought the writing went in the gutter for like Diablo 3 and the later StarCraft. StarCraft, I feel like StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty is like sort of the edge of the cliff for me. Because I thought that was a very good game, but I could see like the cracks in there. And then everything after that I felt like has just gone over the cliff. But I'm not a big World of Warcraft player, though they recently made gaming news for how bad their, how bad the writing was for World of Warcraft, like some plot arc they have, and that's led to, I think it led to like a subscriber loss. It was so bad, and it's like this, and like the fan base saw it coming like a mile away, and they were like pleading with Blizzard not to do this, and then they just did something stupid again. I saw the cutscene. It didn't really do anything for me, but I wasn't really aware of like the larger overarching thing. And I mentioned in the first game dungeon, I'm calling them out on how bad the writing. I was kind of lost on the plot thread even then, but just that cutscene, it was just the dialogue was painful. So I'll say the latest one, the dialogue was less painful. So if you're out of the loop, you may not see what the big deal is, but it upset a lot of players, like a lot. So it's kind of funny seeing that. Maybe they'll get the message, you know, or maybe one of the writer was on the harassment team and they'll get some fresh blood. I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to make light of what happened to anybody. It's just, there's a lot of people. It sounds like they're having a lot of problems there, you know. And it's, of course, awful. They're victimizing people, but that's why I said it's more fun talking about like the petty problems rather than the serious stuff. So, okay, a few more questions. I'll take chat ones and then I'll go eat. I'm not overly familiar with everything that's in Half-Life Beta. I just saw the trailer. They're asking if I wanted elements in it. I haven't seen the Loki series. I'm kind of on comic book movie saturation at the moment, to be honest. I'm still interested in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness because I love that title, but and maybe Thor: Love and Thunder because out of the Marvel movie, I've seen most of the Marvel movies, and out of all of them, Thor: Ragnarok is my favorite. So I'm hoping it maintains a similar tone. Let's see. I haven't played RimWorld. At least I don't think I have. I've played, they're asking about the Burnout series. I've played Burnout Paradise. I think that was the only one that came to PC, though I'm interested in the others. Maybe I'll eventually play them with an emulator. I thought Burnout Paradise was great except for the screen tinting, which I still hate. Okay, we're asking questions that needed more votes here for me to give more of an answer. I mean, to give like an answer I need time to think about. I can't just answer off the cuff. Okay, this is a good question. What do you think of Games Workshop's assuming control entirety of content done by fans and shutting down removing videos related to Warhammer 40K? What would you do if Valve did a similar thing? Yeah, I think somebody mentioned that, but I wasn't 100% sure on it. If they're taking stuff down, that sucks. That is, I mean, I guess they're legally within their rights to do that, but that's, I mean, it's stupid. And, well, from my understanding is this is not the first stupid thing Games Workshop has done. If Valve did that now, I mean, I could probably recover. I'd have to like really go in deep on Game Dungeon to keep things going. But yeah, that would have, I mean, that I might be working a completely different job now if that, and not making many videos at all if they had done that. I probably still would have made a few, but I wouldn't have been able to do Civil Protection. I wouldn't be able to do Freeman's Mind. And the thing is, I could easily do something else besides those. But the problem is it's like Silver Protection. That was kind of my gateway into doing kind of original videos because they gave me the software tools that I could get something done with, and there wasn't an obvious candidate for the sort of stuff I wanted to do at the time. So even now, that's not like a closed and shut answer for like, oh, you want to make machinima. What's the easiest software you can do the most with? That's not like, there's not like an obvious answer. Like I think even now. Let's see. Okay. Oh yeah. Mentioned I disabled the tab close thing of Firefox. Yeah, here I'll pull up. I was ready for this one. I'll just put this in the chat. They're asking how to get rid of the tab close button in Firefox. I'm copying and pasting some instructions I copied and pasted elsewhere and saved my hard drive. I'm just gonna put that in the chat, but this is only the first half of it. Okay, so here's in the chat. And then the other thing is you need to add this file user chrome.css and it might be case sensitive, I'm not sure. And here's what's in that file. It's just a text file. So that's in the chat there. So you can, so you put that second chunk in the chrome.css file. I say that because some of the advice is outdated and won't work now. It used to be a lot easier. They got rid of the easy option. But if you do this, you can figure out how to get rid of the close button. And it looks like Vivaldi supports it just out of the box, basically. I think it's just one of the options to get rid of it. So you can just use, if you really need to use Firefox because of plugins or something, use that. Vivaldi is probably the easier way to do it. So it's a different browser. Russ, do you know about the Earth's decaying electromagnetic field, which is going down 5% per decade? It makes, oh boy, I didn't know that, no. Also makes it easier for solar flares to knock down electricity. Oh boy. We are in a period of solar activity peaking during 2024. Ooh, this is not good. We do not want a Carrington event. See, I was hoping we were through it because like apparently the Carrington events happen roughly every 100 years. And I think we kind of sort of missed a big one from 2012. So my brain was thinking, oh, I hope that means we have another 100 years then, so I don't need to worry about this. Yeah, that's gonna be bad. Like, let's hope it doesn't lead to, I think it's called a Carrington event. That's where it just knocks out all electricity on Earth. Or yeah, does that affect the ozone layer? I have no idea. Yeah, that would be very bad too. Okay, well, thanks for the heads up. I appreciate that. Okay, NASA's saying a 12% chance the next decade, so likely within our lifetime. Well, 12%, that's a little under Russian roulette odds. We can, I guess we'll go with that. Yeah, that's, watch Deus Ex, my video Deus Ex Invisible War if you want to know more about that. That's where I talked about it, because I was looking to see like what could have knocked out the internet when I was doing the Invisible War, because I was thinking their explanation, no, that wouldn't work. But no, Carrington event would do it. Yeah, maybe there's some fiction on that I can read. I mean, that's a great premise for science fiction. So. Okay, I don't know. Well, somebody's saying anywhere they can get the Eternum CD soundtrack. Somebody's saying you can get it from GOG. Maybe. I don't know, because I don't know what copy the GOG one has. But I guess I shouldn't be spending my time checking that on the fly here. Does it come with a soundtrack? 1 storage, 1 gigabyte available disk space. I guess that size 400 megs. I guess that does sound like the CD copy then. Okay, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, if you can hunt down a CD ISO of it, they should advertise if it has the soundtrack. That's not good marketing of it. They don't advertise that. They should list that. Okay. I mean, I actually had a copy from the original disc from a friend way back. Somebody's asking about the deal with Magda and Sephiroth. Magda is a big fan of Sephiroth. So I'm really hoping Square Enix releases the Final Fantasy VII remake on PC so I can get her a copy of it, because I don't want, I almost don't want to buy a PlayStation on ideological grounds, because they do that. I've heard there's hints they might be coming to, I think there was a leak that the Epic Store said they might have it on there, because I know she really wants to play that. So, I mean, I'm not super interested in Final Fantasy, though I like the fantastic environments, but yeah, she's obsessed with that at the moment. So. Okay. Oh yeah, this is a good, I saw this too. I need to read more of it. I saw an article saying there'll be a world collapse in 2040. I'm not sure that's exactly what it said. But yeah, they're following these predictions from back from 1972 that they've been plotting data points where like we run out of things, different various resources. And the model predicted a steep decline in growth by 2040. And Harrington found we were right on track in 2020. Yeah, it's like I think they got some things wrong, like population levels, and there's something else, but other things were like dead accurate. I think like almost like a ridiculous degree. I just skimmed it. I meant to read more about this, like things like how many resources we're using. Like I imagine, I imagine like what was it called? Sideways drilling for oil. I imagine that probably threw a bit of a wrench in it, because that we could able to increase reserves from that. Sideways drilling, horizontal drilling, maybe that's it. But yeah, that's it doesn't mean, okay, just to be clear, it doesn't mean the world ends in 2040, but it means that I think I'll have to read more of this. Yeah, this is right up my alley. You can email me about this if you have speculations on this or know some good, broswscott@gmail.com. I think what it means is this is, by 2040, growth is dead as a concept. Like economic growth and like, more jobs and, more, well jobs can be manipulated, but like higher levels of production of resources, that's all over by 2040. I think that's, but the thing is we can have all sorts of crises lead up to that, so that maybe by the time you hit that, it's not such a dramatic climb, because it's not all going to happen all at once. I figure the best analogy, I'm guessing here, I need to read more of it, so I could have this wrong. The best analogy I can make to this is look at the state of like video cards and lots of electronics that require a lot of microprocessors being produced that are kind of just the supply can't nearly keep up with the demand right now. Look at that the way it is right now, which I think we'll recover from probably in a year or two, from my understanding. But imagine it's like this for almost everything. So it's like this for lots of food production. It's like this for lots of minerals, like copper or aluminum or rare earth minerals like lithium, cobalt, or that sort of thing. Or for lumber or cattle, So I think what's going to happen is we're going to see this hit different resources kind of one at a time as we go on. And those could kind of trigger different collapses because we run our economy very recklessly. That like, just even slowing down for a little. It's basically what I was worried about with like the peak oil situation, except, okay, well, it looks like oil's lasting longer, but we're having a similar trigger anyway from the pandemic. So, it's just, and this can kind of maybe lead to chain reaction collapses. So it's not good, not good. I mean, I guess the sooner we wake up on this, well, I think the better, but I say we, but it means, I guess, people with power will wake up on it, or are scared of the populace to such a degree that they have to act on it. You know, so I don't know. It's yeah, I'm definitely interested in hearing like lots of speculations on this, like either fictional, like maybe stories, or just like best educated guesses we have, because I think this is just looking at the plot of like how a lot of our resources collapse. It's a totally different thing to try, like maybe if you have like a socioeconomic political background or something, to figure out, okay, well, how does this likely play out? You're like, okay, if this is true, then what does this mean? Like, does this lead to some sort of war in this region, or does this lead to these types of governments taking more control, or maybe it becomes more like chaotic, or, you know, so I'm interested in a lot of predictions, so. We're getting a lot of quotes from South Park here. Yeah, they took our jobs. Yeah, well, I mean, that's one of those things where it's like, I mean, both sides have a point, you know, where, I mean, with automation especially, yeah, that is going to lead to be taking jobs. So the thing is, this whole thing of like everybody having a profitable job in the way our economy is currently structured, that's not sustainable. So, I mean, it's, well, you guys know where I am on that. I'm hugely in favor of people having enough to eat and a roof over their heads. So what gets us there in a sustainable way, without doing horrendous things, I'm in favor of. So. Okay, I'm just skipping more questions. Let's see. Well, this is kind of a, yeah, I saw this one. I wasn't sure. Okay, well, sorry. I'm going on too long again. Okay. Regarding sustainability, do you believe that the vast majority of people don't know how to sustain themselves, and this complacency towards systemic slavery, or whatever you call it, and away from self-reliance is a large part of the reason why modern society is unsustainable? And then it says, as an example, it's crazy to me that most people get their food from grocery stores that have the right as private entities to stop selling food at any time. You think anarchism and encouraging people to be self-reliant, free, and take more control or responsibility for how they respond in their lives is a solution to the sustainability problem? No. In fact, I think that's kind of okay, I might be misunderstanding what you're saying, but I think what you're describing is basically pre-industrial revolution. Because if you're talking about like being self-sustaining, you're growing your food. And prior to the Industrial Revolution, we had an agrarian economy or society. And I think there's a lot to be said for not having that, actually, because then you can have an Albert Einstein spending his time, you know, on physics and math, and instead of having to go out and grow the wheat or, you know, milk the cows or something. And we're kind of better off collectively for advancements for people who have abilities and interest and being able to kind of pursue their own things, and just treating our farmers who are still fine with farming well, you know, and leading to technological progress. No, that the sustainability comes from consumption. I mean, and overproduction. Like, it's like we have finite resources. We have finite renewable resources. Like, you know, something like lumber is a renewable resource, but it only grows so fast, and there's only so much land we can grow trees on. So if we're consuming it at a faster rate than what we can grow it, well, then that's what leads to it not being sustainable. You know, because it's like a math problem. So, I mean, I think right now in modern society, what you're describing, it's like not even remotely realistic for like the populace as a whole, because I think there's literally just not even enough land to do that. Like, if everyone wanted to go back to like growing their own food and being sustainable, I think the land isn't there. The population's too big now. But so it has to be done with like more efficient methods, you know. large people who are like devoting all their time to farming. But I was trying to think of what else I was gonna say. So yeah, I mean, it kind of works out better for society when we can specialize in things, so that someone is a computer programmer, someone else is a teacher, someone else is a fireman or a police officer, and someone else is growing the food, and we kind of inter-exchange all that to kind of get by as society. But the sustainability problem is we're not even thinking about limits. Like, okay, like if our way of life requires so much steel being produced, but I'm just making something up. Like, just pick a resource, that's dwindling and we're consuming it faster. Well, then it's like, well, that's not sustainable because we're producing it faster. And steel isn't a great one because that's kind of not really renewable in our time scale. But lumber is a good one. Again, back to that. So we need to figure out, okay, well, our current way of life demands like X lumber, but in order for us to be sustainable, we need X divided by 10. We need to be producing a tenth of as much lumber as we do right now in order for things to get back to sustainability. So we can't really do that all just in one step, but maybe we can scale down. So like over a decade, we get to a tenth. And like, so next year, we're trying to get to like 90% as much lumber. But even then, that causes a cascade of effects because then, okay, well, that means maybe we don't need as many lumberjacks. So they're getting laid off and they need to support themselves. So we need to figure out how that's going to work. And then maybe that affects other industries like development. Like we need to be scaling that down. But then developers or real estate people or construction people, then they have less jobs. So we need to scale that down. So we need to that's why I said this is like so unsustainable what we're doing. So what we need is, I think, kind of focus like what's most important. Like, okay, what do we need for people to just get fed? Like, okay, how much production do we need for that? Okay, how much do we need for people to just have a place to live? And how much do we need for that? And then try to start with that and then work from that as the centerpiece of how we're organizing society and go from that and then figure out okay, well, what do we have to produce? And that would buy us a lot more time. Yeah, chat's got it. We need more lumber, spawn more overlords, build more farms. It's funny. You can't always base reality off a game, but limitations of resource, a lot of strategy games do a decent job of it. It's the thing is we're working on such a bigger scale that you can kind of get lost in the numbers and the weeds of it, but the fundamentals haven't actually changed. If you can only produce so many resources and you need so many to just keep your society functioning, if that number is larger than what you have, then you need to change something. Either you need to get lucky with technology and produce even more, which I think has limits itself, or you need to scale down. So again, it's like a math problem. Yeah, need more burrows. Yeah. So it's yeah. So I mean, for self-sustainability, now individuals can do that. But even then, that's a resource thing too. You need a certain amount of resources to be self-sustaining in the first place. You need land. You need enough resources to keep yourself fed before your harvest comes in, or your animals that you're raising are mature, that sort of thing. So you not only need the land, you need the place to live, but you also need stuff to get you by during that time until you do actually hit self-sustaining level. So, without that, it's just kind of a fantasy almost, because somebody homeless living under an underpass, well, they might be as self-sustaining as they can be for the resources they have. They're trying to get out there and like maybe find food, but it's just not coming in enough. You know, they're not meeting it. They didn't have luck trying to build their own shelter, or it's the Shanetown thing. So it's we're way past that population wise. I think we got to think in different terms, and plus there is benefit, like I said, the specializing. So yeah, I mean, I thought this was a good topic, but I really disagree with the conclusion, unless I'm misunderstanding what they were saying, because it's a different thing. I mean, if our population was vastly lower, then self-sustainability might be an option, and that might be yeah, self-sustaining. But yeah, okay, so I might have misunderstood it, but that cleared up some things, I hope. Yeah, okay, so I'll take chats and just have questions just a second. Okay, this one didn't get enough votes. They're asking kind of a complex question that I don't have an easy answer for, so I'm gonna skip it. Okay, so chat, put three equal signs in front of your question, and I'll just try to answer a few of these quick, even though, man, I really thought I could go faster this time. If we weren't in the alternate bad timeline, which sci-fi universe do you think our future would resemble the most? Well, that's a hard question because, like, okay, the alternate. Well, I mean, what's the good timeline then? Like, I guess, okay, yeah, I guess the good timeline is, yeah, we realize resources are finite and we structure society around that. So, okay, man, it's maybe something like Brave New World. So, I mean, I'm still, I mean, that's still a little cynical, but like that seems sustainable, but there was like a more of a social control thing. I have to learn, because I'm not necessarily sure that take us to utopia, but we would get, honestly, possibly even 1984. But no, not 1984. I feel like 1984 is too blunt to be maintained for that long. Because my 1984, it's like just, it's like total oppression. And the thing is, humanity tends to, the longer you have that going on, where it's really overt, humanity tends to rebel. Yeah, so maybe something like a Brave New World, but there might be some others that I'm drawing a blank on. Yeah, Phil, you can email me science fiction stories that you think we might resemble if it was. Oh, actually, I read it. Geez, it was by Isaac Asimov. Oh, gee, it was this robot detective thing, but it wasn't iRobot. I read it not super long ago. It was something of Steel, Cities of Steel or something. Asimov, Steel, Caves. It might have been Caves of Steel. I don't know, but it actually, basically you had these mega cities where like we were sustainable, but it was on a tight watch. It was kind of close. And things were a lot more cramped, and, you know, food was more of a, yeah, they had like official class designations. That was I forgot the title. It's definitely an Asimov story. It might have been The Caves of Steel. Actually, from my limited understanding of it, Judge Dredd might actually veer into that territory. I need to learn more about that. But okay, let's see. I'm not sure crime would be as rampant if people are being fed, though. Like, if you don't have to worry about putting food on the table, that turns down the pressure on a lot of crime. Like, a lot of crime. Doesn't mean you eliminate it, but it just turns the volume down, I think. If you just don't have to worry where your meals are coming from, or your rent. Okay. What are some of the gameplay aspects you hate in video games? We kind of covered that earlier in the chat. Let's see. I have not looked at Ark Survival Evolved yet. I am interested in that because it's still summer and I want more sunny, hot weather games. And that looks like that. However, I'm not sure. I needed to check how the performance was going to be. I remember hearing that the performance in that was pretty rough. How is your Windows 10 journey going? Relatively complete, except I'm still tweaking the UI now. I mostly got that nailed down back in November. So, have you heard about Steve Wozniak and the surrounding right to repair buzz? I heard of it, but I forgot exactly what was going on. I think he supports it. I think. I mean, it's the sort of thing where I just saw a headline, didn't get a chance to read more. Is my Polish... Is English good enough to live in Poland? Probably not. Not on its own. You probably need some help. I mean, you could get by with a lot of things, but for some official things, you might need some more help. Why do they call it oven? You of in the cold food, of out hot, eat the food. Okay, AI has infiltrated the chat. or maybe they had a typo, or they're kind of having trouble with English as a second language here. Yeah, I remember it's like if you ship something, if you move something by land, it's called shipping, and if you move it by sea, it's called cargo. So I remember that. So yeah, a shipment over land and cargo over sea. Yeah, I think they're asking about Echo, how I dislike respawning enemies. They like a situation where it's okay to have them. Yeah, when you're trying to scare the player and get them not to go that way. Like if you turn a like say it's a zombie game, and you go around the corner, and there's a couple ways you can go, and zombies are rushing in on two sides, and the third way is clear. Then you better go the third way. Like, you know, that's a great use of it because it's keeping it exciting and it's like steering the player. But I guess if you want to try and fight them, you can. But, you know, the point is you should not be fighting these zombies, or, you know, it's very, I think it's useful as a steering mechanic. I mean, I don't really like it in any other situation. I mean, I think like, yeah, the old Descent games, you'd have to like sort of just keep them at bay while you do something else. But I didn't really find that fun, like the respawning part. I think it's totally useful as a don't go here or get out of here mechanic, you know. Did you see the Chris Avalon rant you did on Twitter a while ago exposing modern game dev industry? No, I didn't. Sorry. I've been in VR worlds. And game dungeons on the horizon that has changed your life, like Spiderbot did. Well, I would say next one hasn't. Okay, I'm thinking Horizon. Not really. I mean, not too many have changed. Well, I guess maybe if I do Unreal, that's kind of changing it now. Like I feel like I'm living a piece of the dream here. Like, you know, I was thinking that it almost makes me think. You know how in RPGs, sometimes you'll have like different classes that they like they'll have like the real high end goal or something, or real high end ability that they unlock, that only like the top level character can unlock that in that class. Like if you multi-class, you're automatically losing that ability because it's too deep. And I feel like in spending so much of my life playing games, I've unlocked the ability to play Unreal as though you're actually there. Like, yes, I finally hit it. Like, you know, and not get sick in it. So I feel like this is one of my class abilities that I finally unlocked, and I'm just so happy about. And it's funny because I stumbled into it by accident, because I really thought I wasn't going to make it 5 minutes playing just a first-person shooter in it, and then it ends up working better than even native VR for me, for moving around. If it's native VR, but if I'm just doing teleports or just standing around looking around, then I'm fine. But just moving around in the game. So I told Magda, it's like finding out I could fly this whole time. I just needed to flap my arms. That was the secret. So it's like, oh, okay. Like so I unlocked the life goal without even thinking I was going to do that, So, well, Unreal. Well, I first did it in Kingpin, which is kind of funny because if you've played Kingpin, it's like one of the grimiest, rundown cities that it's just a wreck. But actually, the light direction was really great for Quake 2 engine. So I did Kingpin first, and now I'm doing Unreal. I'm probably gonna go through the Unreal Engine games, and I'll figure out some. I'm kind of keeping a list. Like I'll probably do the Max Payne again. I'll see how third person stuff does with it. Yeah, I really want the old Need for Speed games. Might do the original Far Cry. That's a pretty atmospheric game. So I'm trying to do stuff my memory's a little blurry on, and they're like natively 4x3 games. So, although hopefully I'm not missing out too much by doing hacks and widescreen later on the Pimax or something. The Forza Horizon games in VR would be fun. That's one that's going to be really hard. I'm not sure Vortex supports geometry mode in DirectX 12. So that means that your only option is going to be reshade. So hopefully that works well. And even then, it's going to be Z-buffer, so you probably get some artifacts. So I don't know. I mean, they would be utterly fantastic in VR because they're very. But I mean, the technology might not be there to do it, or it's the sort of thing where the technology's there in theory, but it's never going to get there in practice, which is always depressing. But the fact that I made it to Unreal is like towards the top of games I wanted to experience in VR. But there's others like really want to do Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed. That's a really atmospheric game. Oh yeah, for good games, I mentioned movies. I played through the Mirror's Edge games finally, both the first and the prequel. Somebody gifted me the prequel, and I was one of those. I liked it quite a bit. That's not a game I would want to play in VR. I think would want to like wander around, maybe close my eyes for some of the jumps in VR. But yeah, definitely would not want to play that game in VR. But I liked it more than I thought I would. I don't really have much good to say about the story, and either of them. The prequel is a little better for the story, but I like the second one. I like the scavenger hunt aspect of it. It was, again, I liked it more than I thought. Very atmospheric game. That's one I would. Actually, parts of it at night I thought even felt a little bit like Deus Ex, the original. Because it had that kind of mood to it, yeah, so. Yeah, I really want to play Deus Ex, the original one, but that's still an Unreal Engine, so I'm probably good with that. Yeah, Dead Space 1 would probably be a good candidate, or the Dead Space series. But I think Dead Space is one I'd probably really want to, at least a FOV slider for. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other games I'd want to do. Yeah, but just like the more scenic the game is, the more I want it, the better a candidate is for VR, I think. So there's still plenty of others. Okay, so let me get some more questions, and then I'm probably going to end this talking too long. Do I have a Patreon page? No, but I have a donation page, and you can donate by month, or you can do a one-time donation. It's at cursefarms.com. There's a donation link from there. I kind of set this up before Patreon really started taking off, so I just kind of went with that. And then it actually worked out in my favor in terms of fees. So I get more money getting it this way. Plus, I really like how there's a one-time option, because maybe you don't, maybe somebody wants to donate like $3, but they don't want to commit to like all year for something per month. Fine, I will take, I am happy to take money for survival. You know, I am totally not too proud for that. I don't like being a burden on anyone, but I'm totally happy for that. And in fact, I made if you, I laid out all my thoughts on it in a Begathon video, and apparently the feedback was that's quite watchable, even if you have no intention of donating any money. So I tried to make it worth watching. So, and there's a link to that on the donation page. Okay, I think I talked about the South Korea thing. One, what impact do you think a group like this has on the world's political, economic climate as they gain massive following throughout the world? I'm pretty cynical. I'm just I've seen what's happened to games as a service, so I'm assuming all efforts on this will fail. The thing is, I'm seeing at least the potential for a victory in France, though it's kind of a long shot. So I'm kind of seeing Dirty Dozen odds here, if you've seen that movie, where it's kind of a long shot. It's going to be hard, but they might be able to pull it off. So I'm just assuming it's all going to fail, though. So like, because I've seen too many games killed and not enough change. But I try not to get my hopes up on this, but I'm pursuing the option I think has a chance for success. Is where I am mentally. So, and also with the, not the same thing, but that's why I made the Dream Software video, is this might be a really roundabout way of preserving big chunks of these games, at least. What does Rust talking in Polish sound like? Well, I can say foods, you know, like cebula, kurczak, kukurydza, pomidor, or I can say, I've said, like I don't speak Polish. Yeah, czy mówi pan po angielsku? Oh, no, that's do you speak English, to saying that to a man. For a woman, it's pani. Yeah, for I don't speak Polish is nie mówię po polsku. Jesus, some more phrases. I'm trying to focus more on like caveman Polish, where nouns and verbs, just not even worrying about sentences, because you can do a lot of Yeah, bor is dzik. Yeah, well, there's some other ones. So yeah, pierogi, I know. Of course, let's see. Warzywa is vegetables. Marchewka, I think, is carrots. Truskawka is strawberries. Blueberries I get mixed up because I think it's borov. I always get that mixed up a little bit. It's like borovka amerikański, I think, or jagodowa. I think it's like depends on the verb sense. Yeah, here they call blueberries American berries. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, I know lots of foods. So there's, yeah, beans or fasola. No, I've been eating a lot. I haven't eaten beans in a long time now, trying not to wreck my skin now. Yeah, Chesh is, it's got a hello or. Okay, so yeah, more things. Yeah, but yeah, nouns and verbs, because I'd rather be able to, I'd rather sound like an idiot, but be able to communicate than say a few sentences fluently, but then be lost for all kinds of situations. So. Let's see. What hair conditioner do you use? I'm not even sure I use one anymore. I use this kind of zinc anti-dandruff thing, but maybe I don't even need to use that now because that could have been just related to the skin. If I can get my diet stable enough so that my skin stops reacting, figure out what I'm allergic to. What's the first computer you bought for yourself? Did you buy parts, build it yourself, or was it pre-built? I built them myself. It was I put the whole thing together, including the monitor, for $400. This is like long time saving. I think this is like right before freshman year in high school. It was a 40 megahertz 386, which was behind the times then. I forget how much RAM. Didn't have a 2D or 3D accelerator, but it could do video. I think, yeah, it has CD drive. I had a used CRT that I actually opened up and fixed the color on, which is kind of dangerous, but I was careful with it. I forget how big the hard drive was, probably pretty small. That might have been like 250 megs, something like that. Which I mean, you can't even imagine that now, but back then it's just tight. It was just tight back then. You know, that'd be like having like a, I don't know, like a, well, with Windows it's freaking huge now. That maybe like having a 60 gigabyte SSD now or something like that. So yeah, but yeah, I put it together from parts. A lot of used stuff in there. Yeah, it was, yeah. Even though it was 40 megahertz, 40 megahertz. It was still, I think, slow. It was an AMD one. I think it was slower than like an Intel 386. By then there was already 486s, and so this, I forget what year this was. So I guess might have been 97. I think. I don't know. It was definitely behind the times, but I could run. I could run Alone in the Dark on it, so that was exciting for me at the time. How many hours a day would you say spent playing games? Jesus, probably it varies. Most days I'd say it's like between like 1 and 2, maybe. But when I did like my day off earlier, it was like the whole day pretty much, and I watched the movie. But some days it's none. Some days I'll just kind of like watch something instead. Let's see. But I mean, it can vary. I mean, maybe someday if it's like a really good game and I've like finished a video, I might go more like 3 or 4. I have this like perpetually cursed feeling like I'm behind on things, but that's why I feel like I'm not going to get the movie done, but I feel like I'm going to accomplish a lot of other things I've been trying to do for a long time this year. So hopefully that feeling will lessen, but okay. Are most people slaves to their circumstances, jobs, institutions, to the reality of limited resources? So how do people become truly free, or is that not an option anymore? I think it's a mix. I mean, it's you have options in, I'd say, the vast majority of situations. However, your options can be severely limited too. I mean, you could have responsibilities that kind of do lash you down to certain areas, or you just may not have the resources to get out. I mean, somebody who's homeless, I mean, some of it's luck and some of it's just drive. But like, let's say you have a mental disorder that kind of sabotages your drive, then you're in rough shape. I mean, that's why I'm definitely a believer in like having like bare minimum. Well, not necessarily bare minimum, but like ground level resources for everyone. That you know, being able to eat and a roof over your head, and then see where you can go from there. You know, so I mean, it just depends. Like your circumstances and institutions and limited resources have a very dramatic effect. I don't think it's, I mean, this is sort of like the classic nature versus nurture argument. I mean, however, some people in just completely destitute situations can break free of that, but just through drive and just how their brains set up. But it could be that's only like 1% of people, and if your situation's bad enough. Hey, some people break out of prison and escape and stay escaped. That's not most people. But you would think that their circumstances would be dictated by their environment, but for some people, they can actually get out of it. But that doesn't mean it's remotely realistic that anywhere near the majority of people can do that. So, that's a really good analogy. Some people can break out of prison and stay out. Doesn't mean everybody can. So, ever play Magic the Gathering, the card game? Yeah, I've done that as like a social thing in the past. I still haven't played Project Zomboid. I keep waiting for it to exit early access, but maybe I'll cave in eventually. I have a copy. Okay. No way to get multiple rows of tabs instead of a long string of tabs that suck to scroll through. I'm assuming you mean for web browser. I'd say look up, look up, see if there's a plugin for it. If you're talking about like Windows Explorer, well, I mean, not Windows Explorer, but like a file explorer, there might be some. I mean, I know Directory Opus supports tabs. I don't know if it supports multi-layered tabs. So I guess look up, like if it's a file explorer, look up like File Explorer tabs, multiple rows or something like that. Or for your web browser, tabs, multiple rows, Firefox or Chrome. You might be able to find something. Do you do any weightlifting? Yeah, I've been just doing dumbbells though. Eventually, I try to be careful. I try not to push it too much though, because like I have scoliosis and I'm someone who can damage my back without too much effort. So I do just some dumbbells, not that heavy. It's only like 25 pounds. I can do more, but the thing is that starts throwing off my posture. I would kind of want like a curling bench. I think I could probably buff my arms up a lot more if I had something like that. I also do pull-ups, so because that doesn't put any strain on my back. So I'm kind of lifting my body weight. So that's I don't even know what I weigh now, because we had a scale that broke, and my wife's been afraid to get a new one ever since that. She doesn't want to know. So I don't know what I weigh now, but in the past I was pretty in shape. I was like around I think 180s or something. So I guess that'll be more like lifting 90 per arm, I guess, for pull up. I do push-ups and some crunches. I mean, I should probably do other things, but yeah, I don't want to do anything like remotely heavy lifting where if your posture is even slightly off, you're putting a lot of strain on your back. But maybe if it was, I don't want to do like deadlifting. Maybe if I had like a weight bench or something, but that stuff takes up room. So that'll be like a long-term goal. But, pull-ups are still something to work with, and just, dumbbells you can do some with. So, but yeah, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to look like the Hulk anytime soon. Okay, what are some more questions? I don't always remember too, but I've been better about it lately. Okay, I think I got to it. Again, I was on IRC. I think I saw some that were directed at me that I didn't see what gets my attention is different on IRC than when I see on the Twitch chat. Okay, I think that's it. This is going on way too long. Okay, so I'll see you. Thanks for showing up. Videos coming this month, I promise. Don't know how many though. Judge what I was doing by the end of the year. And again, you're going to think I'm insane once you see some of it. Okay, that's a good place to end this. I'll see you.